Good morning, good morning, good morning. I told you I would come back if something's happening today. Well, it seems like the Senate is voting on the nomination of Todd Blanche as the head of the Department of Justice. This should be very, very interesting. This is a very, very serious nomination that they are about to vote on. And it seems as if these senators who Trump have displaced displaced out of their own seats because he supported uh, a primary candidate against them, have buckled down, and it appears like they are about to uh, approve this nomination for someone who says that he is the president's uh, attorney and not the country's attorney, the president's attorney. So let's get on over there and get into the confirmation vote for Todd Blanche as DOJ. And this, why is this important? This is also important because we have this midterm election coming up. I showed you yesterday how they have put Stephen Miller up to introduce that NSPM 7 that they plan to attack uh, the American people with to destitute you as domestic terrorists. All of this is very important. And who's going to be at the helm of this? It appears that's going to be Todd Blanche. So let's get into this hearing, this vote, not a hearing. Let's get into this vote. There is a few talking points that go on during this vote. So we're going to start it from the beginning, unfortunately, uh, with this. Hold on. Unfortunately, we're going to start it at the beginning um, with this snapping turtle, Chuck Grassley, talking about how much crime fighting has been done by the DOJ. The DOJ doesn't fight crime. DOJ is not a crime fighting apparatus. Chuck Grassley. Let's get into this.
Previous Congress, and he served as general counsel to the Senate Republican Policy Committee and the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. He's also a military and law enforcement veteran. Ryan is very mission-oriented, team player.
One of his staff
has always gone to results. This Congress, 3 judge chief counsel for Senator Thune as majority leader. I wish Ryan the very best in that endeavor, and I thank you, Ryan, for joining.
Now, Chuck Grassley is going to say, "Oh, I got to this point late. They were who was this? Um, the senator from Texas, Cornyn, and Whiten, and I forget the other senator. They were right to demand that taxes be paid and that there should be no slush funds that guarantees that Donald Trump and his family will not be free of any tax liability. So, I came late to this and, I agree, but he said not one word of this. He was okay with that happening. And let's be real clear. Even that agreement is some bullshit agreement that was supposed to have been signed by 6 people and has only been signed by Todd Blanche. So you think that they are going to follow through on this tax agreement? No, they're not.
Because of limited floor time remaining before the August recess, I've encouraged my colleagues to remain present, but we're also accommodating scheduling conflicts, including votes in other committees. So I want everyone to be aware that after we've had adequate opportunity for debate, we're going to move to the vote. And as I've said in the past, I'm happy to stay afterwards if any of my colleagues feel like they want more time to make their remarks. Additionally, I want to thank Senator Cornyn and Senator Tillis, Tillis isn't here yet, but you can tell him I'm thanking him for their work, very hard work related to today's nomination. Their concerns about the anti-weaponization fund and the IRS settlement were shared by many, including this senator. I'm grateful that they, as well as Mr. Blanche and the White House, worked in good faith to solve them, formally rescinding the fund and clarifying the scope of release of claims has put this issue to bed once and for all. I was probably a little late a week ago last night getting involved in this issue. And when I got involved in it, I thought to myself, it's just common sense what Tillis and Cornyn are asking out of the.
Why were you so late getting to this issue? This issue has been an issue ever since the issue has been brought up. To push his nomination through, you guys set up some bogus agreement that is not worth the used toilet paper it should have been printed on. But I digress.
Executive branch of government, and I don't think it should have taken as long as it did to get it resolved, and I don't have any way of knowing exactly everybody that was involved in it, but it's just a crime that it took so long to work out with such a common sense thing that's pretty simple, that when you have a settlement, it's involved with the settlement at that time, and anything in the future that might be gone wrong, of whether somebody had done something illegally or somebody wasn't paying their taxes, that it wouldn't apply to anything in the future. To me, that's very common sense.
This settlement didn't regard anything that happened in the future. This settlement regarded anything that had happened in the past with any misdoings with paying the taxes of the Trump Foundation, and the Trump children, and all of their businesses. So let's not try to pretend like this agreement addressed future tax liability. All of this had to do with his fraud tax, his prior tax filings. That must have been a fraudulent slip. With his prior tax filing, Wyden, up and until 2025, what was being protected. Who you think you are fooling? Of course, it should be common sense that shouldn't have even been proposed, because it wasn't proposed in a settlement. It was written in after the settlement was it was written in. There was actually really no settlement. There was an agreement to drop the case against the IRS without a settlement. So Todd Blanche created a settlement with himself that the judge was unaware of, that would relieve the Trump family from any tax liability up into the date of this by himself settlement. Are you kidding me? See, this is why we got to get these old lizards out of this Senate. This is why we need term limits. This motherfucker is just sitting up here lying. But he don't have much to live under any much time to live under any administration. So why does he care? But do you care? Listen to what these people are saying about this lawlessness, and look who they're about to put in charge of the largest law enforcement agency in the United States, who says that he is Trump's lawyer.
And that's all that I see, that at least for one half of what Tillis and Cornyn were trying to accomplish, should have been accomplished very easy, and it seems like it took the longest part to get settled. So I thank everybody for their patience in doing it. Turning to today's agenda, I'd like to say a few words about Mr. Blanche. The Justice Department has thrived under his leadership. Among other things, Mr. Blanche has led major successes in thwarting federal program fraud, ending racial discrimination, and restoring the safety of every American. I'd like to take a few moments to reflect on that last one, the safety of Americans, primary job of the Attorney General and the Justice Department. At the end of the hearing, Mr. Blanche stated that his job was, quote, securing safety for every American, end quote. He is absolutely right. It's clear that from his track record that Mr. Blanche has succeeded. We've seen report after report showcasing the department's increase in violent crime arrests, disruption of terrorist activities, and the seizure of illegal firearms and controlled substances. The Council on Criminal Justice recently issued 2026 mid-year report on crime trends. The results are very astounding. The reported rates for homicide dropped 51% from its peak over 9 years ago. Carjackings down 73%. Residential burglaries down 56%. Motor vehicle thefts down 51%. Now, critics might say, well, there was a spike of crime in 2020. So let's look at the reported crime rates in 26 compared to 2019.
And Todd, Blanche, and the DOJ was out on the streets of these cities where all of this was happening, fighting this crime. They are to be applauded for all of this crime going down. Okay, all right, we got you.
Assaults down 13%. Assaults with firearms down 17%.
Hey, foot soldier.
Robbery
Hey,
down 41%.
Black. Good to see
Drug
you.
offenses down 15%. And that's just a few of the statistics I could give you. Without objection, I want to enter this report in the record. Is there any objection? I hear none. The Washington Times noted, quote, homicides are on a track to hit the lowest point in recorded U.S. history amid an overall decline in crime nationwide, end quote. Based on these stats, it's evident that no Justice Department in our nation's history can boast the successes of this Justice Department under Mr. Blanche's leadership. Still, the critics can't bring themselves to acknowledge this reality. The Washington Times stated, quote, the encouraging news was met with little explanation as to why crime, especially homicides, has cratered after spiking from 2020 to 2022, end of quote. That's a strange thing for them to say. The press has no explanation for what changed between then and now, because I can think of an explanation. I think every American in this country who feels safer at home and in their towns and cities can think of an explanation. It's very obvious. Todd Blanche's Justice Department has reprioritized the safety of Americans after the Biden administration opened borders to violent criminals and then turned a blind eye to heinous crimes that were happening around the country. The Biden administration was too busy weaponizing the Justice Department against political opponents to stop real crime. And so please don't forget, whistleblowers and media outlets reported that the Biden FBI even reassigned personnel from investigating child sex crimes to work on January 6 cases. So it's no surprise that when the Trump administration secured the borders and Mr. Blanche did his job prioritizing safety of Americans, crime has come down. But despite evidence that America is safer under Mr. Blanche's leadership, some have alleged that he doesn't care about victims. I can think of plenty of victims who would disagree with that. This committee received a letter from more than 300 angel families who strongly support Mr. Blanche. They praised his commitment to, quote, core public safety priorities, stopping illegal immigration, eliminating cartels and transnational criminal organizations, ending trafficking in dangerous drugs and human beings, and protecting American communities from violent crime, end of quote.
Ending trafficking as he hides the Epstein files and protect the people who are on the Epstein list. Are you serious? You cannot be serious. As he set up. Sorry, bye. Hold on.
Their statement. As we heard from one of these angel moms at the hearing, Jennifer Boss, her testimony was heart-wrenching as she told about her daughter's tragic and gruesome death. She stated, quote, from the time I've spent talking to Todd Blanche, I knew
soldier, you are exactly right. It is funny that crime is down when they are the ones who are committing it. And you notice it would be down when they are the ones who committing it because they are not prosecuting the crimes that they are committing in this administration. That's why it's down. Thank you, foot soldier.
Immediately that he makes victims a priority. Under his direction, the DOJ has engaged directly with angel families and treated us not like political props, but as partners in preventing future tragedies. And that's all that we've ever asked for, end of quote. Ms. Boss concluded by stating, quote, I 100% believe that Todd Blanche will be one who can deliver justice, saving lives of people who will never know it, end of quote. Ms. Boss knows that America is safer with Mr. Blanche at the helm. The Angel families know it, and Americans across the country know it. Today, I'm not only voting to advance Todd Blanche's nomination, I'm voting for the safety of the American people. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Reflect on the fact that as we meet today, there are thousands, literally tens of thousands of men and women in the United States who got up this morning and put on a badge or picked up their briefcase and went to work to make sure that we would be safe. They are in law enforcement all across the United States of America. They count on the system of justice, as we all do, to give us not only safety in our homes, but also fairness when it comes to treatment by the government. The man we are discussing this morning seeks to be the #1 law enforcement enforcer of the United States of America, the Attorney General of the United States, the highest ranking law enforcement position. And what have we learned in the last few weeks when it comes to Todd Blanche? We have learned that simply his word is not enough for most of us, not even for some of my Republican friends. Even his word under oath is not credible enough. We have a demand by colleagues that I support, a demand that Mr. Blanche, when it comes to important promises to the American people, put it in writing. Put it in writing. And in fact, he did. Mr. Chairman, the political escapade of the last week has made it clearer than ever that Todd Blanche has no business serving as our nation's chief law enforcement officer. 2 Republican members of this committee said they would not vote for Mr. Blanche unless the J6 cop beater slush fund was permanently and irrevocably terminated. And of course, these 2 members, and I support their position, said to Mr. Blanche, you have to put it in writing if you're going to say those words. President Trump responded, as we might have guessed, as he always does, by doubling down on his position and personally attacking our colleagues. To state the obvious, Mr. Blanche's statement on the slush fund and the IRS immunity agreement are not signed by the parties to the settlement agreement and are therefore unenforceable. The parties could still sue to enforce the agreement, and the cop beaters fund can easily be revived with a new order from the Department of Justice 15 minutes after Mr. Blanche is confirmed as Attorney General.
And if you don't think that is what is going to happen, that is exactly what is going to happen. So them for Tillis and what is it? Comer, not Comer. That's he's in the Congress. For Tillis and the one who lost his seat in Texas, to pretend like, oh, well, he complied with our request. They know good and goddamn well he has not complied with your request. And Tillis, he's such a pussy that he is not even running for his seat. He would rather retire than be a man and do his fucking job and stand up to all of this lawlessness. So he suddenly is retiring. And that James, what is his name? James Comer or whatever, from Texas, his ass got voted out of his seat because he was his primary candidate was supported by Trump. And they still are going to go out the door allowing this lawlessness. Goodbye and good riddance. And everyone else who vote for this nominee, in my opinion, should be voted out of their seats as soon as possible. Because of what's coming to the American citizens with Todd Blanche at the head of the DOJ is going to be frightening. They've said it out loud, but you're not paying attention of their plans of what they're going to do to the American people. And all of these people who are about to vote Todd Blanche in are complicit.
Indeed, the president himself has loudly telegraphed that's his plan. This is the exact issue that the 2 senators identified as a basis for their objection to his nomination, Blanche's nomination. To my Republican colleagues, you gave Mr. Blanche the benefit of the doubt when you supported his nomination to be Deputy Attorney General. 17 months later, there is no doubt where his loyalty will lie. Take a look at this promise, unprecedented, I believe, in the history of the United States.
Thank you.
That somehow Mr. Blanche engineered an agreement, an understanding, a settlement, you name it, that said that Donald Trump will never be held responsible for any violations of tax crimes.
Cornyn, thank you, a person in the chat, Shannon, is that Shannon? Thank you, James Cornyn from Texas. Got fucking primaried out of his whole motherfucking job, and he's still doing dumb shit out the door.
Before the date of this document that was signed, saying that the president can commit any crime in the tax code and not be held personally responsible? Does that sound like he's being held to an accountability that we all expect of every single American? Instead of serving the American people and upholding the rule of law and the Constitution, Mr. Blanche has aided and abetted the most corrupt administration in the history of the United States. Prior to this hearing, Mr. Blanche told me he, quote, made a mistake, close quote, by creating the January 6th slush fund. Where did he say it? In my office, with witnesses, my staff, to what I'm about to say. When I asked him about this under oath, Mr. Blanche falsely claimed that he never made this statement. That's not true. Mr. Blanche's willingness to casually lie under oath about a statement he made in a room full of witnesses shows the lengths he will go to avoid offending President Trump. Why doesn't he want to concede he made a mistake? We all do that from time to time, right? No, no, no. Manly mega leaders do not admit a mistake or use the word sorry. So he was held accountable by the president. Mr. Blanche has claimed he would recuse himself from matters involving President Trump in his personal capacity. Yet he personally signed the agreement releasing President Trump, his family, and businesses from tax liability. When asked how DOJ justified the slush fund's outrageous $1.776 billion price tag, Mr. Blanche refused to answer. He shows contempt for this committee and for our history by refusing to admit that the sum was chosen to signal support for the January 6 rioters, and many of us remember when they attacked and invaded the Capitol. Those rioters shamelessly invoked 1776 to compare themselves to American revolutionaries. Give me a break. Mr. Blanche told me that a ruling against the settlement was, quote, a hit piece personally directed at him. This is no surprise coming from the man who declared that the Justice Department is, quote, at war, close quote, with the courts. These are not the words of someone who would serve our nation as a top law enforcement official. One of Mr. Blanche's first acts as Deputy Attorney General was to issue a memo gutting DOJ's crypto crime enforcement, which allowed the president to rake in $1.4 billion in a crypto windfall last year, even as Americans reported billions of dollars in cryptocurrency fraud losses. The president did just fine, thank you. Meanwhile, Mr. Blanche still has, through his children and grandchildren, $150,000 in crypto assets. Last year, under Mr. Blanche's leadership, more than 1,000 FBI personnel were pulled off key law enforcement priorities. What was a higher priority than their oath they've taken to uphold the law? They were directed to flag Epstein records and look for any mention of Donald Trump. Mr. Blanche refused to tell me who gave this order, but former Attorney General Bondi made it clear, saying Blanche was, quote, in charge of the Epstein files. And when the Epstein Files Transparency Act forced DOJ to release the files, not only did the department delay reviewing and producing it, they failed to redact hundreds of survivors' personal information, victimizing them all over again. And they testified before this committee under oath to that fact. Meanwhile, the names of powerful Epstein cronies remained protected in clear violation of the law. When scrutiny of the Epstein cover-up intensified, Mr. Blanche participated in secret meetings in the White House Situation Room, of all places, to strategize about protecting Trump, not Epstein survivors. Mr. Blanche volunteered to interview convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, a transparent attempt to exonerate President Trump. Just days later, she was transferred to a minimum security camp, which is unheard of, unprecedented for serious sex offenders like her. Mr. Blanche agreed to meet with Epstein survivors after months of pleas, only when his nomination was in jeopardy, and a member of this committee said he wouldn't consider voting for him unless he met
Hey, you from visiting from the UK. It's a wonder that you think only 50% of the Americans are asleep. I think more like 75, 77% of Americans are fully asleep. And they're not shocked about who is about to be over the DOJ. And when he finally went and met the Epstein survivors, he went in the room with a cocky attitude like, yeah, what is it? Because I don't have all day. They were taken aback at his attitude, it has been reported, because he walked in there like, yeah, what is it? What do you want? What is it? I got things to do. But let's continue. I think that is a larger percentage of Americans who are asleep. And let these stupid motherfuckers stay asleep while they're worrying about dumb shit on YouTube. And then when the electricity grid go down, they will not be in places that tell them, hey, you may want to go out and get you a solar generator. You may want to stockpile up on you some food. You may want to make sure you have some personal protection and something to put in that personal protection. You may want to make sure that you have small denominations of cash on hand because it's about to get really fucked up in America. That's my opinion. Why do you think these rich people have their bunkers? You got your bunker? You better get your bunker ready.
With these survivors, he finally met with them for almost an hour. As one survivor, Dan Obinsky, who testified before this committee, said, the meeting was a box-checking exercise. Mr. Blanche refused to take accountability for redaction failures, and he wouldn't commit to following their suggested investigative leads. It is clear that Mr. Blanche hopes to sweep the Epstein scandal under the rug. I thank those survivors for the courage they showed in this room today and around the country for continuing to advocate for survivors and speak truth to power. Mr. Blanche has played a key role in terminating thousands of Department of Justice officials. The chairman talked about his law enforcement record. Let's look at it. The goal is clear. Replace these DOJ officials with unqualified MAGA loyalists who will rubber stamp President Trump's corruption. Under Mr. Blanche's leadership, more than 16,000 employees have left the department. 16,000 employees have left the Department of Justice, including more than a fourth of its attorneys. Many have been fired for declining to initiate vindictive prosecutions or refusing to follow unethical orders, like career immigration litigator Erez Ruvani, who refused an order from Mr. Blanche's former law partner, Emil Bove, to lie in federal court. Mr. Blanche bragged about firing career law enforcement officials simply because they were assigned to investigate President Trump's misconduct. Mr. Blanche
and Janine Pereiro didn't refuse to file bogus lawsuits. Filed a bogus lawsuit on a 70-something-year-old man, saying that he ripped up the lining of that molded reflecting pool after Donald Trump got one of his buddies to do a no bid contract, telling you the job was going to cost $2 million, and it cost over $20 million for the reflecting pool to be green less than a week later. But this bitch decided to go out there, and she was going to charge a 77-year-old man with a fucking felony that could have put him in jail for 5 years. And then when she got to court, she had absolutely no evidence, and it got thrown out of court. No evidence. And then what did your president do? Your president expressed disappointment with her for not going on with a bogus lawsuit against an American citizen, a bogus lawsuit that could have put a 70-something-year-old person in jail for years. It could have been a life sentence for a 70-something-year-old person. And let's see how long Janine Pereiro has her job. Let's see how long this bitch who did put her law license on the line behind some dumb shit to be a Trump loyalist. Let's see how long that dumb bitch has her job.
Is responsible for department losing thousands of years of law enforcement and national security expertise. This makes all of us less safe. Consider this quote. On Blanche's watch, the Trump DOJ has pursued an unabashedly vindictive agenda of leveraging the government's awesome prosecutorial powers in its public trust against the president's political enemies. These aren't my words. This is the conclusion of the National Review, the leading conservative publication founded by William Buckley. This isn't about Democrats versus Republicans. This is about rule of law versus lawlessness. The Attorney General is supposed to be the people's lawyer. Department of Justice should work on behalf of all the American people. Mr. Blanche continues to operate as the president's personal lawyer, treating the Justice Department like a law firm serving one client, the president. The president has made it clear he plans to keep Mr. Blanche in place as acting Attorney General, a damning comment on his capacity to honorably serve in this role. This committee does not need to legitimate Mr. Blanche's appointment by providing our consent. I yield.
Before I call on Democrats to speak, I'd like to have Cornyn and Tillis have a few minutes, and then we'll go to the other side of the aisle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Here come Tillis and Cornyn, who tried to pretend like they made such a strong stance to say, to come up and say how they believe that Todd Blanche did what was required. Todd Blanche did no such thing, and Dick Durbin just told you that everything that these dummies are about to tell you that Todd Blanche bent the knee to is non-existent. And as soon as Todd Blanche gets back in office, he can request everything that he was previously requesting in that fake ass agreement. And do you think he won't? I think he will. Let's continue.
The Office of Attorney General is one of the most challenging jobs in the cabinet. You are at the same time the people's lawyer, as Senator Durbin has said, while you are a member of the president's cabinet, subject to being dismissed at the pleasure of the president. It is a very challenging balance to strike, to be sure. The tax lawsuit that was filed by President Trump and his son and the Trump Organization in January of 2026 was what prosecutors called unparalleled in the IRS's history. A contractor with Bose Hamilton got the job at the IRS for the express purpose of leaking tax returns, private tax returns that of people he thought the public needed to know about. That is a violation of the criminal law. And the contractor is currently serving a 5-year term in the federal penitentiary for that. Initially, when the president filed suit, he sought $10 billion in damages. That is nowhere to be found in the final settlement. The settlement document created a roughly $1.8 billion weaponization fund. That is no longer part of the settlement. I've been very clear, as others have, that in order to support Mr. Blanche's nomination, I needed specific assurances in writing about a release signed by the acting Attorney General last May. I asked for written assurances that clarifies the scope of the parties to the IRS audit agreement and permanently ends the weaponization fund. While this may sound like nitpicking to some, it's critically important not only to me but to other members of the Senate. What Mr. Blanche said under oath in his nomination hearing on these topics was important. He said under oath, subject to the penalties of perjury, that he signed the release he signed only applies to the IRS and the Treasury and only the parties who were defendants and the plaintiffs. And he also said once more that the weaponization fund was dead. This past Sunday, Senator Tillis and I came to an agreement after numerous meetings with the Department of Justice and Mr. Blanche on an agency interpretative guidance document that reaffirms what Mr. Blanche said in his sworn testimony in front of the committee. This document will help limit the substance and scope of the audit protection to the defendants in the lawsuit, the IRS and the Treasury. And it limits it to the parties to the audit settlement. It limits the parties to the audit settlement to the plaintiffs, the people who brought the lawsuit, and no one else. And important.
He can't even get this. He can't even get this bullshit lie out. Well, he complied. It limited it to it. Well, it limits it to no one. You dumb fuck.
Importantly, it was retroactive, stated to be retroactive, not prospective, doesn't apply to future audits, but does settle all claims that were subject to the lawsuit and those that could have been brought in that lawsuit. And again, importantly, it ends the weaponization fund. The DOJ has repeatedly said that this is their...
And it's not signed by any of the other 5 parties that must sign on to it. Are you forgetting that? Yeah, conveniently.
...legal position. and interpretation, including filings in the Floyd versus Department of Justice in the Eastern District of Virginia, and Dunn versus Trump and Citizens.
Oh, I have an agreement between myself and my bank that they are going to pay me $250 million today. It's signed by me. It's not signed by any representative of the bank. However, I will show up this afternoon and collect my money from them. Meet me in jail. Meet me in jail. This is how. This is what this dumb motherfucker is sitting up here telling you. Still licking boots after he lost his whole motherfucking Senate seat behind being a dumb bootlicker. I am glad to see you go. Now, people of Texas, who will you vote for? Who will you put your vote behind since you don't have this dumbass to vote for? People of Texas, the dumber the better, I guess.
Responsibility and ethics in Washington versus Trump in the District of Columbia. They've been consistent about their assertion on behalf of the United States of America that the weaponization fund is dead. And of course, I expect them to live up to that in any future litigation. Given this agreement with Mr. Blanche, I expect the department to live up to this in future litigation, and I will vote to advance him out of the committee today. But my vote to advance Mr. Blanche's nomination goes beyond this document. We need a stabilizing force at the Department of Justice, and Mr. Blanche deserves the opportunity to provide that as opposed to continuing to serve in an acting capacity and as the Deputy Attorney General. The Department of Justice does not need a temporary, unconfirmed nominee as our nation's top law enforcement officer. President Trump needs someone in this role as well with a strong legal mind, but who also is close enough to him to give him confidential legal advice to tell him hard truths. I thought what Mr. Blanche said during his hearing was very important. He said, I can give the president confidential legal advice, but of course, he doesn't have to follow it. He was elected president of the United States and not me. That's the fact. I would advise Mr. Blanche not to be afraid to capitalize on that earned trust when necessary for the good of the country. I want to thank him for being willing to work with us, Senator Tillis and me, and I want to commend my staff, led by Francie Rooney and others, for their hard work on these negotiations. I'm glad we could address these issues here.
I hope you've taken your staff with you.
In committee so that this nomination can move forward. And I'm grateful to the chairman for giving me and Senator Tillis the latitude to do so.
Senator Tillis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Cornyn. I am by no means going to match up against Senator Cornyn, a lawyer and a former judge, except to say that I believe that we have addressed the concerns that I have. The first one, I called the payout pot for punks. I've never liked this 1776 fund. It made no sense to me, and I thought it was an insult to the police officers and the people that defended us on January the 6th.
And I think it's an insult to the people that you're speaking to right now to pretend like that $1776 billion payout for those insurrectionists that tried to subvert the will of the people in the election of 2020. I think it's an insult to the people that you're talking to, like you believe that slush fund is gone to never come back again. That's what is an insult to the people. But you're not running again because you're a bitch.
It's done. It's been rescinded, and I am satisfied. I also feel like Senator Cornyn addressed the other piece of it that has to do with the audit to my satisfaction. You know, the thing that interests me, and I'm kind of curious about the speeches that come after here, is how everybody has this view of they are as pure as the driven snow, and it's the other side that has a problem. I think we both have a problem, folks. If you want to talk about weaponization, take a look at the Biden administration. Take a look at the Obama administration. Take a look at Crossfire Hurricane. Take a look at the codes that Lois Lerner used in the IRS to target businesses to try and unbank.
No, we're going to take a look at the nominee for the Department of Justice. That's what we're looking at right now. Now you want to divert our attention to something else so we can pretend like we are not seeing what we're seeing. Look over there, red herring, a blue mockingbird. Look over there. No, we're looking right at you.
No. Take a look at the prospective pardons on the way out the door that President Biden did for family members, for staff members in Congress. The bottom line is nobody is clean here. And until we start recognizing
We're taking a look at the pay for pardons that are going on right now in this administration, where people who have funneled money to Al Qaeda when we were fighting a war, we're taking a look at those people who have gotten pardons. Yeah, we're taking a look at those people.
this behavior is bad, we're just going to one-up it. Maybe it's a little bit more intense in this administration than the last one, and that a little bit more intense than the prior administration, and so on and so forth. But folks, we've got to end this stuff. We do. I'm going to support Mr. Blanche's nomination, but what I hope I see out of him is a bending of the curve of this absurdity. The 86-47, some bonehead in North Carolina thinks that that's a crime. Well, they better damn sure have information to back it up, because if all it is a picture, that person should lose his job, his or her job. Similarly, the people who went after Republicans in the Biden administration should probably be disbarred or disciplined. So at the end of the day, don't act like you're standing on some sort of moral high ground if you start attacking this administration, because I can match you almost deed for deed. What I would like to see here is maybe people saying, look at it, instead of criticizing people on the other side of the aisle, why don't you go back and hold your own caucus and your conference to a higher standard? That's what I'm doing. That's what Senator Cornyn's doing. And that's what I think the American people want more of. And Mr. Chair.
Well, if that's what you're doing the right thing and leaving your job, because in fact, you're doing none of that, you silly rabbit.
Thank you for your patience. I know from time to time, I don't like delaying markups, but I thought that this was a very important one because we got to a good outcome. And I appreciate Mr. Blanche working in good faith, and I am prepared to vote yes today in his confirmation, or
Wow.
in moving his confirmation or nomination forward.
God.
White House. Thank you, Chairman. Today, I think, is a sad and embarrassing day
Yes,
for this committee.
very.
As it looks like on a party line vote, we are going to advance out of this committee probably the most discreditable person ever to seek the office of
Preach.
Attorney General of the United States.
Preach.
The reasons to vote against him number in the hundreds, but let's just focus on a few where my Republican colleagues purport to have great concern. Let's start with the Epstein files, where Todd Blanche participated in the cover-up, continues to participate in the cover-up, and is responsible for a massive screw-up of the release of the documents. Cover-up and screw-up on the Epstein files. What do I mean by cover-up? Well, first, they looked at 4 FBI 302s that were the testimony of a woman who told the FBI in a formal statement that she had been sexually assaulted and physically assaulted by Donald Trump around 13 or 14 years of age. Of those 4 302s, they released 1, the one that did not mention Donald Trump. Well, fortunately for transparency, these documents had been released in other areas and bait stamped. So people figured out that some were missing. And with that, the other 302s that mentioned Donald Trump had to be produced. Only because they got caught were those 302s produced. And right now, as we sit here, Todd Blanche is still sitting on 37 pages that are almost certainly the agent's notes off of which the 302s were taken. That should be disclosed under the Epstein files law, but instead, those 37 pages remain covered up. Where else did the cover-up go? Well, the Department of Justice received suspicious activity reports from the Treasury Department about Epstein's accounts, many of them related to Russia. You'd think that an investigative body like the Department of Justice could look at a document called Suspicious Activity Report and deduce that there might be suspicious activity. But did they even have a look? Billions of dollars in Epstein fund transfers, and the Todd Blanche department never even had a look.
Hey, Regina.
And then you get to Ghislaine Maxwell, where a deputy attorney general flew to Tallahassee to have a private meeting with a woman convicted of participating in Epstein's depravity. And what was the upshot of that meeting? Was it to get more information about who else was culpable, about whose secrets were still being kept? No. It was to get exculpatory information about Donald Trump and then reward her with a move to a club-fed prison. Now, the nominal excuse for that is, oh, she was in danger in her earlier prison, so we had to move her. How often does a prisoner allegedly facing threats or danger get moved to a less secure facility? I mean, think about it. It doesn't.
And how often do people in the less security prison that woman has been sent to get sent to a higher security prison because they are complaining about the liberties that this person that Epstein has sent to the lower security prison? You open your mouth if you have been sentenced to this lower security prison and you open your mouth and say something about Ghislaine Maxwell, you're going to get sentenced to a higher security prison. This is what's going on. Let's not forget all the facts.
Pass the test of common sense. So, between the botched disclosure, which revealed victims of Epstein's depravity, whose names had not been previously known, in some cases with photographic images with their addresses, in some cases photographs without being fully clothed. Where does the buck stop for that, if not with Mr. Blanche? That was.
And if you don't believe America is about to be up to some real depravity with this man sitting over the Department of Justice, and I need you to go and read what the NSPM7 has in store for American citizens. And the NSPM7 has been enacted, and who has the funding to do all of this stuff to the American people? The money is in the DHS budget, and ICE will be overseeing it. We know what ICE is capable of. You people really need to wake up. They're getting all of their chips in a row, and they're saying what they are going to do to American citizens out loud. But why isn't your for-profit media talking about the NSPM7 that they have already enacted as of July 7th of 2026? Okay. Don't act surprised or do your due diligence. There's enough dumb shit going on in the world. You better make sure you're protecting yourself.
An epic botch that did real harm to Epstein's victims. Voting for this guy today gives their blessing to the screw up, to the botched release that even Pam Bondi pointed at Blanche as responsible for. And it gives the blessing to his continuing role in the cover-up of Epstein files. So there's Epstein for you. And let me ask the letter from the Epstein victims to Senators Tillis and Cornyn to be put into the record. So next we get to this crooked slush fund Trump family tax amnesty scam. Let's take a look at that. We've got these two new pieces of paper, one signed only by Todd Blanche, one not signed by anybody, neither of which has any legal effect whatsoever. They are decorative.
And did you hear Tom Tillis come up there and act like, oh, we got that settled. It was so egregious and we got that settled. But here's the truth. Nothing has been settled. What has been settled is they still plan to give these white nationalist rioters rewards. And one of the white nationalist rioters who molested two children told them if they keep their secret, he's going to leave them some money from his will because he's expecting to be paid from the U.S. government. this type of depravity is going on, because these people believe that they are going to get millions of dollars because they are rioting and out here molesting children. One of the January 6 rioters who got a pardon or a clemency or whatever actually has done that under the guise of he is going to get money from the government. Let that sink in.
So what problems do they leave behind? Well, one is, can you trust Todd Blanche going forward? I will tell you, I do not. I think it would be unreasonable to trust him going forward. There is enough weasel room in these documents to drive a truck through. And what might that truck look like? Well, you could get rid of the anti-weaponization fund for $1.776 billion, and in a month, put out the Trump Justice Fund
Hey, T. Velocity.
for $1.9 billion. Nothing in this document prevents anything like that from happening. You could open a drive-up window at the Department of Justice for cop beaters from January 6th to come through and get friendly Federal Tort Claims Act settlements from the Department of Justice. They're already handing out settlements to Trump's allies. What's to prevent the drive-up window? Come on in. Here we are. We got the friendly form for you to file, and here's a check. Nothing prevents the cop beaters from being funded by the Trump Department of Justice. But let's assume that
Are they going to have to take off their uniforms and their masks from their ICE uniforms? It has been alleged that many of them work for the Department of DHS and work as ICE agents right now. Let's look at the last ICE agent that took the life of somebody who actually was in the system, was not a target of any ICE calls or ICE roundups, was actually in the system, had permission to work in the United States. And let's look at all the depravity that in all of the domestic violence and domestic violence calls, all the mental health calls, all the proclaiming that he was going to take his own life, that when uninvestigated, and he's working for ICE. And it is reported that there are many of these January 6ers who are also working for ICE. Todd Blanche is about to release ICE on you to round up people. You know, you may be in a large group of people. If they, it could be a indicator. It could be some indicator that you are about to commit a crime. They don't have to say what crime. They don't have to say you have committed pre-crimes. We have money for ICE agents in the Department of Homeland Security, where ICE agents are going to be rounding up people under this NSPM 7 rule that went into effect on July 7th to round American citizens up for pre-crimes, things that you have not did, based on indicators. What are indicators? Whatever they want to say indicators are. That's what indicators are. If you are not up on this information, why this is so dangerous to have this man over the DOJ, you may want to get your information up.
we really have made a big improvement here. Let's assume that the burglar has been forced to give back some of the jewelry he stole. Being forced to give back some ill-gotten gains doesn't mean you're not still a burglar. There's a question of the man's character, that he was willing to get into these schemes in the first place, into what George Will called the sludge of self-dealing of this administration. Even if there isn't Slush Fund 2.0, and even if there isn't the drive-up window for cop beaters, there's a real problem with an individual who would agree to that in the first place. To me, that should be disqualifying. And the last bit on that is how he got there. Let's not forget that there is an ongoing proceeding in Florida in federal court with an open question whether Todd Blanche committed a fraud upon the court. We don't hear that term, fraud upon the court, very often. It's probably the worst thing you can accuse someone of in a court proceeding. It means you're an officer of the court. It means you abused the process of the court, and you did so in order to accomplish an unjust and wrongful result. It's actually worse than contempt of court. It is so bad that in the history of the Department of Justice, no senior official has ever been even accused of a fraud upon the court. And we're advancing this guy before that question is settled in Florida, while there's still a bar issue, a disciplinary issue with the New York bar related to that misconduct.
He's facing being a fraud against the court because that lawsuit that he filed for the lawsuit that was filed by Donald Trump suing the IRS for $10 billion. There was no adversary in that claim. So the IRS wasn't complaining about it, and Trump wasn't complaining about it. They in just were all cool with it. It's just like me suing my alter ego. Hey, RonyiQ, I'm gonna sue you for $10 billion. Okay, sue me for $10 billion. And if the judge let it go, then I'll give you the money, and we'll both have $10 billion. There was no adversary. So Todd Blanche coming in and acting like this was a real serious suit. The judge said that this was not even an adversary suit. No one was against it. In other words, Scott Bessent, who's over the Treasury Department, he was more than willing to take $10 billion of your tax dollars and freely give it to Donald Trump because they put together a scheme. Like Todd put together a scheme to come at Candy. They put together a scheme, and that we will work together, and we will fucking pull the tax dollars out and put it in your pocket. And the attorney for this is the one who is bringing this complaint against Todd Blanche for even furthering this lawsuit, because he should have known better. Didn't he say that he's President Trump, a personal attorney? When I said, Foghorn Leghorn Kennedy was questioning him, and Kennedy asked, "Were you Trump's friend?" And he says, "No, I'm Donald Trump's personal attorney. I am the vice chair of the DOJ." Yes. So shouldn't we figure out what the findings are? And why do these judges take all day? They don't take all day when it comes time to find if you are scamming the courts. But this bitch had over a month, and she hasn't figured that out. And over 100 judges had to petition her and write her ass and say, "Hey, you this everything about this case is self-dealing," and she still ain't decided on this. If that case was bogus that they brought into her courtroom, the fuck going on?
Fraud on the court is a big deal, and it's not going away. Then last of all, you've just got the general dishonesty and incompetence of the operation that Todd Blanche is running. And I'm not going to go through the list. It would take the whole day. But let me go through a couple of summaries of it. The Economist magazine, not exactly a left-wing publication, had its lead article, its cover article on the U.S. Department of Justice, title, "Degradation in Process." Degradation in process. I ask unanimous consent to add that article to my remarks.
Without objection. Sure.
Then here's a story from ProPublica. Federal judges chastise Trump's Justice Department for unlawful, unethical, and unseemly conduct. I'll just read the first sentence. Across the country, federal judges are calling out Department of Justice lawyers, questioning in unprecedented ways whether they can be trusted to tell the truth or uphold centuries-old legal norms. Ask unanimous consent that that article be added to the record.
Without objection. Sure.
And then there's a group called Just Security, which reads through decisions from federal judges around the country and gathers the incidences in which the federal judge has challenged the integrity or the competence of the Department of Justice. It's about this thick. I'll just ask to have its introduction put into the record. If my colleagues want to go and look and see what the avalanche of misconduct that Blanche's leadership has precipitated looks like, you know where to find the report. Here's the introduction. It talks about the presumption of regularity, a judicially created doctrine with a long and contested history. The doctrine affords the executive branch a distinct advantage by instructing courts to presume that executive officials have properly discharged their official duties. And what the report characterizes is the destruction of that presumption of regularity in this Department of Justice. So I ask unanimous consent that that be added as well. And then since I've mentioned it, I'll also ask George Will's article where I described his description of the settlement between the president and the executive branch he heads, exemplifying the administration's sludge of self-dealing. That also be added to the record.
Without objection. So ordered.
The last question that I'm left with here is what's left of this committee? What's left of this committee when we don't demand straight answers from witnesses? How many times has this Department of Justice been asked what became of the $50,000 that the FBI reported that it handed to Mr. Homan in a bribery sting? That's administrative stuff. That gets reported. There's an account. You've got to check the money out. If you get the money back, you've got to check the money back. There's an administrative trail. We can't get any information about that. Our Republican colleagues see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. Cat virtually certain lied to this committee sitting in front of us. Is there any interest in that? At a time when Republicans in Congress seem agitated about Biden officials lying to Congress? We got lies right here, folks. I don't know where this committee goes after it stops being taken seriously, because all you have to be is on the right partisan side to get this committee to roll over and play dead. Thank you, Chairman.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Appreciate that we are hearing from our colleagues at this important moment for this important vote. So I start with this. As you know, this year, thousands of ICE and Border Patrol agents descended on Minnesota. Two of my constituents, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, were killed. They should be alive today. After they were killed, the federal government refused to cooperate with state and local law enforcement, blocking Minnesota investigators from accessing the scene of Alex's death, even though they had a judicial warrant. Federal investigators mishandled evidence, and they failed to process Renee Good's car for evidence. Everyone in this room have seen those videos. Everyone in this room knows that at the very least, those cases should have been and should be investigated, and they are now. Instead of cooperating with local law enforcement, which I pressed the department to do from the beginning, and as the Justice Department had done in past cases, including following the assassination of Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, the marching orders from the Justice Department to federal prosecutors in Minnesota were to investigate Renee Good and her wife. Joe Thompson, who is the lead fraud prosecutor in my state and who I recommended to serve as acting U.S. attorney under this administration and was appointed as acting. He resigned after that. He resigned along with 14 other prosecutors because they did not believe what they were being asked to do was ethical. These are career prosecutors, no politics, not interested in politics. And then more than 6 months after Renee and Alex's death, when I asked Acting Attorney General Blanche if the department would finally fully cooperate with state law enforcement in these investigations, he said it depends on what full cooperation means. The floodgates were open to some extent. Some information was finally passed along to the state, but it is unclear if they have all the information that they need. Minnesotans deserve transparency and accountability, and not just for the killings. We also saw repeated violations of Minnesotans' constitutional rights. I asked Todd Blanche about one such case. I asked if it is unacceptable for federal agents to forcibly enter someone's home without a warrant and drag them into the street without even checking if they have the right person. This happened with a Hmong elder, a U.S. citizen, saying he was a U.S. citizen, dragged out in his underwear and Crocs, thrown into a car and driven around for an hour before they realized they had the wrong guy. Mr. Chairman, when I asked Todd Blanche about this, and if this was a violation, he said, it depends, and it was not a black or white answer. Mr. Chairman, what is black and white is that a nominee to be the chief law enforcement in our country should be able to condemn the actions taken in that case. Upholding the independence of the Justice Department is vital to its legitimacy. I know this firsthand. Before I was elected to the Senate, I served for 8 years as a chief prosecutor for the largest prosecutor's office in Minnesota. I led teams of hundreds of line attorneys and professional staff. And like Acting Attorney General Blanche, I would sometimes receive calls from powerful people about cases, trying to influence the outcome, trying to get a plea, trying to get us to dismiss a case. But no matter who it was, I made clear to the people who worked for me that we weren't playing that game. I made clear that investigations and charging decisions were based on the facts and the law. Not once did I cross that line, because as I told Todd Blanche, once you cross that line, it's hard to go back, because the minute you cross the line and allow anyone else to influence a prosecutor's decision, whether that call is a friend or a lobbyist or the president of the United States, you can never go back. And I think Todd Blanche knows this. Before his confirmation as Deputy Attorney General, he told me he understood that his clients are the people of the United States, not the president. To quote Senator Adam Schiff, what happened to that, Todd Blanche? Since then, however, Acting Attorney General Blanche has said of the Justice Department's investigations into people the president has had issues with in the past, Blanche said that is his right, and indeed, it is his duty to do that. In fact, the president has repeatedly directed the Justice Department to engage in political prosecutions related to his personal grievances. FBI Director Comey, former Cyber Office Director Chris Krebs, Jerome Powell, the former chair of the Federal Reserve, the New York Attorney General, civil rights organizations, journalists, and yes, even sitting U.S. senators. And while Acting Attorney General Blanche told me that he believes all decisions have been made, in his words, solely based on the facts and law, it's not credible. We've seen the president's social media posts. We've heard from career prosecutors. We've seen the judges appointed by presidents of both parties throwing out meritless cases and subpoenas. Mr. Chairman, if the president can direct prosecutors to go after people like Jim Comey and Jerome Powell, he can go after any American. That is not equal justice under the law. We've all seen the department can be used also to reward the president's friend. Under Acting Attorney General Blanche, the department moved to vacate convictions of leaders of the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys who participated in January 6th. And a matter of less public note, but incredibly important to our economy, is antitrust. It is devastating to our economy if the Justice Department stands back and lets the big get bigger and the small get crushed. And that is exactly what's happening right now. As a former top Trump administration antitrust official said, antitrust cases in this last year, quote, were being resolved based on political connections, not the legal merits, end quote. As just one example, after ousting Gail Slater, the former and well-respected head of the antitrust division, who 20 of the 22 senators on this committee voted for, the department abandoned the case against Live Nation after the president met with the company's CEO and discussed the litigation. And we know how that story ended, with the state's attorney generals Democrat and Republican, continuing that cases and winning in a big way. And now we await the remedies, not from the Justice Department sellout settlement, but from the attorney generals of this country. Finally, I have great concerns about Acting Attorney General Blanche's willingness to uphold the department's independence as the president tries to use the department to undermine our democracy ahead of the midterms. We know that under Todd Blanche's leadership, the Justice Department has already tried to coerce states, including Minnesota, on the very day Alex Preddy was killed, to turn over voters' sensitive information. In fact, they tried to tie that to the ICE presence. Give us that, we'll change that. 19 federal courts, in opinions issued by the judges appointed by both Republicans and Democrats, have now found this effort to be unlawful. The president has also floated the unconstitutional idea of ending mail-in voting, and the Justice Department is defending his direction to the Postal Service to not deliver certain ballots. And according to state election officials, including Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon, the Justice Department has stopped providing the briefings and trainings that have long been standard to ensure that states are prepared to prevent and respond to emerging election threats. And when I pressed him, Todd Blanche would not even definitively say that he will not deploy armed agents to polling locations. Whether it is not answering these questions, not providing transparency and accountability, or repeatedly failing to enforce our nation's civil and voting rights laws, reproductive rights, or consumer laws, I have grave concerns with Todd Blanche's leadership at the department. What we need at the Department of Justice is the courage to stand up for the rule of law, like we saw from Tom Calhoun Lopez, an Army veteran and prosecutor at the Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office during Operation Metro Surge. He said that what the Justice Department told his office to do was, quote, antithetical to the principles of law enforcement. Hagan Scotton, decorated Iraq War veteran who clerked for Justices Roberts and Kavanaugh and the lead prosecutor in the Mayor Adams case, who resigned instead of carrying out politicized orders, wrote this: I expect you eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me. When I think about the countless Justice Department officials who have stood up for the rule of law over the last 18 months, it is clear that the president's lawyer, Todd Blanche, is not the right person to be Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States. Unlike the public servants I just mentioned, he has shown that he sees his role to serve Donald Trump and not the American people and not the rule of law. I oppose his nomination.
Senator Cohn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before we take this vote. Considering who should serve as the next Attorney General is one of the most important things we will do as a committee. And I think it's important that the American people understand the reasoning of each of us who are about to take this vote. I've been consistent in saying there's three factors I consider for every cabinet nominee, and I have worked well with attorneys general of both parties and for presidents of both parties. I review their qualifications, their experience, their capacity to do the job, but also their policy views and their character and independence, their ability to do the job with integrity. Today, I'm going to focus on that third part: character, independence, and integrity. Throughout the decades since the Watergate crisis, both parties have consistently recognized the importance of an attorney general who can and will stand up to the president and say no, and serve as an attorney general in defense of the Constitution, not just the agenda of any one president. Will Acting Attorney General Blanche meet that standard? We have clear evidence he will not. You can literally take it from his words before this committee, saying the department is not independent from President Trump and shouldn't be. And frankly, among many things that have been articulated in great detail by Senators Whitehouse and Klobuchar, I think the Anti-Weaponization Fund as a proposal and a concept, along with the sweeping liability release order that Mr. Blanche signed, might well be the most brazenly corrupt and unethical thing this administration has attempted. It's bad enough that for weeks he resisted the simple request of my Republican colleagues to just say in writing that this fund and order are revoked, finished, dead, but that he is still refusing to make it a binding guarantee in a sworn statement submitted before a judge. Is this because once confirmed, he will simply revoke this new order as he did ones before it? Nothing would stop him from doing just that. I have enjoyed serving with Senator Cornyn as co-chair of the Law Enforcement Caucus, with Senator Tillis on important intellectual property issues, but we will vote in opposite ways today, and so I thought it was important to lay out why. In my view, we never should have gotten to this place. As acting attorney general, when asked by the president to do something plainly unethical and corrupt, Mr. Blanche should have simply said no. He did not do that. And I pressed him in his confirmation hearing whether he even tried to talk President Trump out of this widely rejected plan, and he refused to answer.
So let's just talk briefly about transparency. They've called themselves the most transparent administration and Department of Justice in our history. But in fact, they're as transparent as the wall behind us, whether in Mr. Blanche's refusal to answer questions about the anti-weaponization fund, refusal to advocate for victims rather than perpetrators in the Epstein matter, or his willingness to answer my request for transparency on a FISA court ruling that both the chair and ranking of the Intelligence Committee have requested be released, or the OLC opinion underlying ongoing boat strikes in the Caribbean. I met with Mr. Blanche last week. I raised these issues with him, and I await his replies. Our citizens want and truly deserve an independent and transparent Department of Justice. I don't think Mr. Blanche can or even wants to deliver on that goal. So I ask my colleagues to put yourselves in our shoes. If 4 years ago we were considering the nomination of an AG nominated by the previous president who had said and done these exact things, what would you have done? And I urge my colleagues to vote against this nomination. I will be voting against Mr. Blanche, and it's my hope that he will surprise me and exceed my expectations, but with a heavy heart, I'm fairly certain he will not.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to join in thanking you for allowing us to speak before the vote. Quote, "I'm his lawyer," end quote. That's what Mr. Blanche told us he was. I'm his lawyer, namely Donald Trump's lawyer. Maya Angelou famously said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time." Todd Blanche is Donald Trump's lawyer. He will say anything, do anything, conceal anything for his boss, much as in organized crime, the consigliere would do anything, say anything, and conceal anything for his boss. That is why Mr. Blanche was held by a judge in Florida to have committed a fraud on the court. Todd Blanche is now, in effect, committing a fraud on Congress. The documents that he has submitted, and I will hold them up here, that purport to change some agreement are, in effect, a nullity. They are meaningless. They have no effect. They are non-enforceable. In just a few weeks, thousands of young law school students will begin a contracts course. What they will learn is that a contract can't be modified or changed by some outside party when there is a meeting of the minds. And there was, in effect, an agreement, a meeting of the minds between Donald Trump and the United States of America to settle his case. Now, Todd Blanche purports to change it. This document is a sham. It is a sham and a fraud on the Congress insofar as it seeks to change our minds by representing something that is patently false. Commentators.
And you don't think Cornyn and Tillis knows it's a sham? They're going to vote him in and leave their seats. Well, Cornyn got voted out of his seat. They're going to vote him in and leave their seats. And we see how they thwart any investigations that the DOJ should be a part of. They don't want to investigate anything. I mean, the reason why I covered this ICE, of the things that were going on with these ICE agents, is because I knew that they were trying to tenderize your mind and make you have some type of, well, you know, they shouldn't be here. Well, there's a reason for this. Let's see what the reason is going to be at election time. Let's see how you guys are going to fortify reasons for ICE to do what they have been doing, what that you have seen them do at polling places. Let's see how you're going to rationalize all of this. See, this wasn't about getting people out. Well, maybe it was a little bit about getting people out of here, but this was about them not respecting the rule of law and doing it properly. So you think they're going to respect your rights? Do you think that they're going to respect your right with all of the shit that they have been doing to try to bastardize these midterm elections? Let's continue.
Have talked about loopholes. There are no loopholes here. This document itself is a sham. In fact, one of its statements is that it incorporates all of Todd Blanche's testimony before this committee. I want to hold up one part of that testimony. Todd Blanche himself says that that agreement is an enforceable document. So I suppose if President Trump's counsel sought to enforce it, potentially they could. Of course they could. Tomorrow, Donald Trump's counsel can go to court and seek to establish that trust fund, that thug fund. Senator Tillis called it a payout to punks fund, if he chooses to do so. It is an enforceable agreement no matter what Todd Blanche says about it. And if you don't believe me, you can listen to one of the most ardent advocates of that anti-weaponization fund who said the quiet part out loud on Twitter just recently. Mike Howell, who Chairman Grassley called as a witness before this committee last year, retweeted Mr. Blanche's announcement with his own commentary, quote, "can be undone after Tuesday. The anti-weaponization fund is great." The President of the United States yesterday in the Oval Office repeated his commitment to the anti-weaponization fund. We don't need to say the quiet part out loud. The President is shouting it. The position of United States Attorney General is a position of supreme trust. Any of us who have worked in the Department of Justice, I was the United States Attorney for Connecticut, knows that the Attorney General of the United States, like every lawyer who represents the United States, has a trust in going to court, in making representations. There is a presumption of regularity when a government lawyer appears before the court. That's the sacred trust that a government lawyer bears. Todd Blanche has betrayed that trust. And his betrayal of that trust is disqualifying for his nomination. Todd Blanche showed us who he was also when he, during this hearing, referred to the attack on the United States Capitol on January 6th as events. They are not events. They were a riot, an insurrection, an attack on the Capitol. We were there. We know what it was. It was a violent, unlawful attack on our nation's capital that cost brave members of law enforcement their lives. He purports to stand for law enforcement, and yet he is in favor of a fund that in effect rewards those individuals who attack Capitol Police in that insurrection and riot. And he refuses to see it for what it was and describe it to the American people accurately and truthfully. His prescribed, rehearsed lines prepared by the White House legal team are meant to protect the president's feelings. They demonstrate an unwavering loyalty to the president. That is the through line. He is the president's lawyer. He showed us who he was as well when he was talking about reproductive rights. In a private call last week, Mr. Blanche, again, said the quiet part out loud. In fact, he shouted it. He said to the participants on that call that he would work to restrict abortion in every single state. That's not enforcing the law. That is a zealot, a warrior seeking to advocate the president's position against reproductive rights. He wants to block states enacting their own policies and laws. He wants to make abortion access follow the laws of abortion banned states. In short, he wants to strip Americans of their right to choose and strip states of their right to govern. The part of this agreement that purports to limit the immunity under our tax laws and protect the president against audits is in fact no limitation. It preserves all of the president's rights to be above the law. No person is above the law, but Todd Blanche is agreeing to put the president above the law. There are more than 400,000 other Americans who suffered the same harm as Donald Trump when their private tax information was taken and released. We have in this country a principle of equal protection of the laws, Presumably, if Donald Trump gets this deal, they would be eligible to assert their claims for the same rights. If Donald Trump is protected against paying hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes by this deal, perhaps so should they in claims they may file. The cost to the government is staggering if this deal is approved as Todd Blanche purports to do. And that deal is still in effect as a result of these documents. Mr. Blanche showed us who he was when he ducked and dodged my question about deep sixing and killing an investigation into the possible pay-to-play commutation of an individual who was pardoned, David Gentile. David Gentile reportedly paid $2.5 million to a broker to obtain clemency, which robbed his witnesses, his victims, of nearly $16 million in restitution. When a United States attorney tried to investigate, Mr. Blanche reportedly killed the probe. That is not the behavior of an attorney general who upholds the trust of this position. That's the behavior of Donald Trump's personal lawyer. Finally, the most sacred right we have in a democracy is the right to vote freely and fairly. My fear is Todd Blanche will be Donald Trump's lawyer in suppressing the vote and distorting the count. He will defend Donald Trump if the president sends militia or ICE agents or the National Guard to the polls to disrupt the elections. He will defend Donald Trump if he seeks to distort the count after the election. My fear is that Todd Blanche will represent Donald Trump. He will be his consigliere, and he will put Donald Trump ahead of the American people and the right to vote. I cannot support him. I regret that this committee will, in effect, betray its trust in the party line vote that is to follow and approve Todd Blanche as Attorney General of the United States. And I will be introducing a resolution today rejecting this tax immunity deal as possible precedent, seeking to stop it from becoming a means of others seeking the same kind of illegal privilege that Donald Trump will have as a result of this deal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ronald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's very important to hear from members before this vote is taken. I asked Mr. Blanche questions in three broad areas during his hearing 2 weeks.
This is about to be good right here.
Ago. First, I asked him about the Epstein files. Specifically, I asked whether he would cooperate with the New Mexico Department of Justice's investigation into Epstein's Zorro Ranch. And I asked if he would help state law enforcement get the information that it was seeking from the Epstein files. At the hearing, he said DOJ would cooperate, but in follow-up questions for the record, he dodged. And I understand that DOJ is actually stonewalling the New Mexico Department of Justice in its request for information in its investigation. This public show of concern, contrasted with private dismissiveness, is how he treated the survivors who met with him, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. I asked one of those survivors about the meeting that he finally had with the survivors. And this survivor said, quote, "We walked away with a feeling of demoralization because he did not come into that meeting looking to work with us in good faith," end quote. I thank and commend the survivors for their courage in fighting for justice. The second category of questions I asked Mr. Blanche 2 weeks ago centered on DOJ's independence. I asked him the simple question, do you believe it is the president's right and duty to order the investigation or prosecution of his perceived enemies? Pretty simple question. Mr. Blanche responded, quote, "I can't answer that yes or no," end quote. He might as well just said yes. In follow-up questions for the record, I asked him the simple question, if confirmed, will your highest duty be to the Constitution of the United States or to the President of the United States? He left the answer to that question blank. Blank. When he is sworn in as Attorney General, he will have to swear to uphold, support, and defend the Constitution. But we know that oath will take a back seat to his loyalty to the president. The third category of questions I asked them was related to the slush fund. At his hearing, I asked him whether he had rescinded the order dated May 18, 2026, setting out parameters for the so-called anti-weaponization fund. He testified that he had rescinded it. In questions for the record, I asked him, give me the date of when you rescinded this order and this fund. He did not answer the question with a date. He refused to end this fund in writing until he was forced into it in order to secure needed votes from my Republican colleagues. And how can we trust that this so-called death will be lasting when he has shown that his words to us at the hearing do not matter? He was under oath at the hearing, but he's hardly going to prosecute himself for lying to Congress, which he did. Mr. Chairman, I intend to judge Mr. Blanche not by his words, but by his actions. Even though he said he would cooperate with the New Mexico office, Attorney General's office, in their Epstein investigation, it seems he will not actually do so. Even though he claims to follow the Constitution and the law, he acts as the president's lawyer, catering to the president's whims and protecting the president. And even though he said repeatedly that the anti-weaponization fund is dead, he had to be forced, literally kicking and screaming, to memorialize that death in writing. And that non-binding writing will mean little when the president wants the fund. And believe me, the president is loudly saying he wants that fund. Who do you think Mr. Blanche will side with? Is he going to uphold this so-called non-binding statement to me to secure today's vote from some of my Republican colleagues?
And all that $1,176,000,000 fund, how much do you think is going to be taken off the top? How much money is going to be stolen off the top? This is supposed to be a fund to repay the January 6th rioters. How much is going to be taken at the top? Ask yourself. 1,600 people who are supposed to be paid by this fund. They need $1,776,000,000. You think they're going to give that to 1,600 and some people? Or how much do you think is going to be taken off the top? Ask yourself. Don't play dumb.
Or the wishes of the president, to whom he is loyal above all. At a time when the Department of Justice has lost thousands of career attorneys with millennia of combined experience, and when the DOJ's independence from politics is no longer in existence, I cannot vote in favor of someone whose actions so clearly make him ineligible to serve as Attorney General, even of a department as compromised as this Department of Justice, which basically is a department of retribution and revenge. I urge my colleagues to vote no as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Booker.
Mr. Chairman, I'm shocked. I think I've been here 14 years. I have not seen something as farcical as what I've witnessed over the last few weeks. We have a nominee that it seemed like some of my colleagues in a noble way were saying is unqualified unless he gives some kind of guarantee that what we now know on both sides of the aisle, Americans think is absolutely outrageous. A slush fund had been created for the president to dole out to people who've done the most awful things, literally people that stormed the Capitol and beat police officers in this building would not get taxpayer dollars as some kind of reward. Universal disagreement on that, and the fact that a president of the United States is not above the law and shouldn't be able to cheat on their taxes. And so I sat back for days now looking forward to us, at least of all the things that Todd Blanche has done that is disqualifying for this job, I thought at least we were going to be able to get an end to that nightmare. And here's the thing, Mr. Chairman. Here's the thing, Mr. Chairman. You even have conservatives coming out and saying these things are not worth the paper they're drawn on. I have a lot of respect for my colleagues, love the state of Texas, but I'm going to say it very clear. This is all hat and no cattle. It's hard for me to say this as a plant-based guy, but where's the beef? Where's the beef? This is ridiculous. We got nothing, no guarantees whatsoever that this slush fund still can't go forward. We got nothing that the president of the United States can't cheat on his taxes and have no accountability. Dear God, folks, it's not like we're talking about a president who is a saint. No president in the history of this country has been caught in tax cheating more than this one. A Pulitzer Prize winning documentation of his tax cheating came out in 2018. Pulitzer Prize. Donald Trump said, I'm going to sue you. It's all wrong. That suit was thrown out because the president is a tax cheat. But it didn't stop with that. He was a tax cheat with his nonprofit as well. He created a so-called charity, but what did he do with that charity? It was cited by the state of New York for self-dealing, for tax cheating, and was shut down. We have a known arsonist, and we have just in this committee given him a whole barrel full of gasoline to light on fire our tax laws and have no accountability for the conflagration. This is so ridiculous that we are sitting back here and allowing this to happen. A president that we know is a tax cheat. That is a fact. That is a fact. We have now just given him an immunity to his tax cheating. Now, here's an admission I'm going to make to my colleagues on the other side. We've had presidents that have done things that, to me, do not pass the smell test and do not pass the appearance of impropriety. I think this committee should pass a law that no children of presidents should be able to grift off their parents' office. To me, it is ridiculous the corruption that we have normalized in America, that presidents' children can go out and sit on boards and make money. That is wrong and that is corrupting. But they have become so obsessed with the millions that the Bidens have made that they have ignored completely the billions of dollars that the Trump family is making. That is like being obsessed and using a magnifying glass to study the stain on the living room carpet when behind you is a mountain of excrement covering the living room couch and coffee table. This is so outrageous, the lack of proportionality going on, my colleagues, it is laughable. This is absolutely insane that we have a president of the United States that has now made $2 billion. Doing what? Wow, he's such a shrewd businessman. Let me create my own crypto coin and have foreign nations invest in it. Oh, and by the way, if you are a corporation in America, put my children on the board and they'll get no bid contracts. This is the Judiciary Committee. We're supposed to be checking and balancing this nation. Why have people on both sides of the aisle given up on any trust in government? It's because we're surrendering any shred of integrity left. And now we're letting an attorney general become the highest law enforcement officer in the land and putting no holds whatsoever. I had hope for 2 weeks that we would get something. 2 weeks that we would have something substantive to stop the world's greatest presidential tax cheat from cheating. And we've done nothing. And this man is going to now sail to the floor, and history is going to show it. I know what's going to come out in history on this president, and I know what's going to come out on Todd Blanche. And the simplest way that should outrage any shred of decency my colleagues have, because this isn't left or right, this isn't presidential enrichment. This is the deepest, most sacred urgency.
It is very obvious that your colleagues on the other side of the aisle have zero shreds of dignity at all.
Of this committee, and I know colleagues on both sides care about it. Victims of crime should have justice.
They don't care about that.
And here in the United States of America,
if your colleagues on the other side of the aisle cared about victims of crime, we wouldn't be in this position right now. This nomination would have been pulled because there would have been no way forward in this nomination. That shows you that the Republicans are degenerates.
The greatest sex trafficking rings we've ever seen, when only 2 people, over 1,000 women, sexually assaulted and raped. Only 2 people have been held accountable. There are other criminals out there that haven't been found. And what did the man that we're talking about becoming the Attorney General of the United States, what did he do? Well, he joined in the Situation Room in the White House. Y'all know what the Situation Room is, right? This is where we go to deal with the greatest national security threats in a classified room to deal with the safety of our nation. And yet this administration in the Situation Room calls an emergency meeting at which Todd Blanche was there to say, what are we?
Oh, wait a minute, Cory Booker. Hold your horses, Cory Booker. You want to talk about what happened in the Situation Room in the White House? I notice you're not talking about your pal Benjamin Netanyahu sitting in the Situation Room of the White House before this Iran war that has bankrupted our military of all its munitions and made us a sitting duck in the world, a whole bully nation that has fucked around and wasted all of their protective ammunition. Cory Booker, you don't want to talk about them bringing Benjamin Netanyahu into our Situation Room, our secure Situation Room? Oh, we can't take you seriously either, Cory.
Going to do because the president appears in the Epstein files hundreds of times. They didn't get together to say, this is really bad. This is eroding trust in the justice system. This is eroding trust in the rule of law. We have to find a way to hold powerful people accountable. No, they came together with Todd Blanche in the room. How do we protect the president? And what happened after that? One of the most unusual things in the history of our country happened after that. Todd Blanche, at the highest height of our justice.
Ignorance loves to show itself. Bobby Fischer, are you saying that only shows your depravity and your ignorance? Carry on.
This department ran to the prison of Ghislaine Maxwell. This is unprecedented. This is, lawyers tell me, untoward. This is corrupting. He didn't study the case files. He didn't talk to the prosecutors. No, he ran to the jail cell and met with her for 2 days, insulting every single Epstein victim that had been asking for a meeting for years. And after 2 days of meetings,
how could he run to the prosecutor? James Comey, daughter Maureen Comey, was the one who prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell case. What happened to Maureen Comey? She was fired from the Department of Justice, but Todd Blanche wanted to get all the information and he wanted to question Ghislaine to make sure that she was telling the truth. How could he do that when they fired the prosecutor, Maureen Comey, who successfully prosecuted the case, who would have all the factual information that made this prosecution a success? And then they go, and then what did James Comey do? He allowed for Maureen Comey's father to get prosecuted under some 8647 seashells. Cory Booker, put the whole story together, please.
did we get information that led to an indictment? No. Did we get information that led to new opens of investigations? No. Did we get one more conviction? No. What did we get? That a convicted sex offender was able to leave her confinement and go to the cushiest prison in our land, that by Bureau of Prison Law, by DOJ law, is a violation of their principles. So Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting in the lowest possible confinement after giving no information that helped us get one more investigation started, and has been silent. And the man responsible for that, we are about to make the Attorney General of the United States of America. This man is not our lawyer. He is not America's lawyer. He is about to become Trump's sword against his adversaries and shield against any scrutiny. The
sword against the American people as well. I did not skip that part. I will go back and let you rehear that part. I didn't skip it. I stopped it and I had commentary. I'll go back to that little part.
The shield is going to shield him from tax cheating. The shield is going to shield him from investigation for any involvement he may have had in Epstein's deeds. And the sword, I've seen it. Unprecedented that the Attorney General should investigate colleagues here on this committee. This is farcical. It would be literally laughably funny if it wasn't so dangerous. We are about to put a person in one of the most powerful positions in the land, vital for not only enforcing the law, protecting national security, but also vital for upholding our democracy. And my Republican colleagues sound like Jan Brady. Marsha. You are worried about a pickpocket when it comes to grand theft larceny, When it comes to our democracy, you're worried about someone who is doing petty theft while there is the murder of our democratic traditions going on before our eyes. We are in dangerous waters, folks. We are in dangerous waters. We are turning the ideals of justice in this committee into a mockery by letting the least qualified person, a person proven to do Donald Trump's will, over the law. He is about Trump and not truth. He is about corruption and not the Constitution. He's about being Donald Trump's lawyer and not the people's lawyer. This is so deeply wrong. We will rue the day that we let this man have this much power under such a corrupt president. Thank you.
Senator Padilla.
Okay, so why this is important? This is very much important at this juncture of America, because your president has made it a point to say that he wants to prosecute American citizens as being domestic terrorists based upon indicators that you may be about to commit a crime, which means that you have not committed any crime. And what good is it going to do, your constitutional rights going to do for you with Todd Blanche at the head of the DOJ? These are the things that you need to worry about based upon your associations, based upon these indicators that they are not specific about, which means these indicators are going to be whatever they say they are, based upon them not being able to purge voting rolls, and Todd Blanche not saying that he will not have armed agents or ICE agents at your voting places. It's easy to say just vote them out, but see, they have a remedy already set up in place. So it would behooves of you to watch Marco Rubio and Stephen Miller talk about how American citizens are the enemy of the state, and how NSPM 7 is the remedy for the American citizens being enemy of the states, being domestic terrorists, how they can mark you down as a domestic terrorist and treat you as such. See, it's one thing to be arrested, but it's another thing to be arrested as a domestic terrorist. Please understand, people. This is where we are in America. And this is who they want sitting at the head of the DOJ. Why do you think Tillis and Cornyn are trying to make it appear like all of a sudden Todd Blanche came into some legally binding agreement? They're on their way out the door. They're going to wash their hands of it and act as if they did some type of due diligence, as you saw them at the start of this committee, act as if, well, we stopped him and it wasn't until he complied. He didn't comply at all. All of these paperworks, one wasn't signed and one was signed by Todd Blanche alone when it was supposed to have been signed by 6 different individuals. They're playing in your faces because they done made all their money sitting up in Congress. When their old asses retire, they're going to have that golden shoe healthcare that your tax dollar is going to pay for. They don't give a fuck about you. And they're going to feign like, oh, we did everything we could as they vote this person in. It's really about to get hectic in America. Somebody asked, why did I not play Cory Booker? I did play the part of Cory Booker when he was talking about the jail stuff. I stopped and I gave commentary. Let me see if I can.
Behind you is a mountain of excrement covering what Todd Blanche has done that is disqualifying for this job. I thought at least we were going to be able to get an end to that nightmare. And here's the thing, Mr. Chairman.
That's
off their parents' office. To me, it is ridiculous, the corruption. It's because we're surrendering any shred of integrity left. And now we're letting an attorney general become the highest law enforcement officer in the land and putting no holds whatsoever. I had hope for 2 weeks that we would get something. 2 weeks that we would have something substantive to stop the world. They didn't get together to say, this is really bad. This is eroding trust in the justice system. This is eroding trust in the rule of law. We have to find a way to hold powerful people accountable. No, they came together with Todd Blanche in the room. How do we protect the president? And what happened? In the Situation Room, calls an emergency meeting at which Todd Blanche was there to say, what are we going to do? Because the president appears in the Epstein files hundreds of times. They didn't get together to say, this is really bad. This is eroding trust in the justice system. This is eroding trust in the rule of law. We have to find a way to hold powerful people accountable. No, they came together with Todd Blanche in the room. How do we protect the president? And what happened after that? One of the most unusual things in the history of our country happened after that. Todd Blanche, at the highest heights of our Justice Department, ran to the prison of Ghislaine Maxwell. This is unprecedented. This is, lawyers tell me, untoward. This is corrupting. He didn't study the case files. He didn't talk to the prosecutors. No, he ran to the jail cell and met with her for 2 days, insulting every single Epstein victim that had been asking for a meeting for years. And after 2 days of meetings, did we get information that led to an indictment? No. Did we get information that led to new opens of investigations? No. Did we get one more conviction? No. What did we get? That a convicted sex offender was able to leave her confinement and go to the cushiest prison in our land, that by Bureau of Prison Law, by DOJ law, is a violation of their principles. So Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting in the lowest possible confinement after giving no information that helped us get one more investigation started, and has been silent. And the man responsible.
That was the point of going there, to make sure she could give you, she would agree to give no more information, to make sure that no one else would be prosecuted. That was the deal. That's why she's sitting in a cushy prison. Duh.
For that, we are about to make the Attorney General of the United States of America. This man is not our lawyer. He is not America's lawyer. He is about to become Trump's sword against his adversaries and shield against any scrutiny. The shield is going to shield him from tax cheating.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Padilla. I wanted to let that person know that we had heard what he said about him, about the Situation Room meetup, about the Epstein files that led to Todd Blanche going to have personal meetings with Janine. Well, let's get to Padilla.
Mr. Chairman, colleagues and members of the public, we've been hearing a lot about this tax immunity deal. We've heard about Todd Blanche's mismanagement of the Epstein case and files, the evidence of Todd Blanche carrying out Trump's political agenda of vindictiveness. And I'll have my comments on that as well, but I want to bring us back to what it is that's before us today. 150 years ago, Congress created the Department of Justice and entrusted the Attorney General with the simple but profound responsibility to serve as the nation's chief law enforcement officer. Let me repeat that. To serve as the nation's chief law enforcement officer. Not the president's lawyer, the American people's lawyer. And even today, go to the department's website. Its own mission statement lists, quote, independence and impartiality as its first core value.
Nobody believes that.
It says the department must follow, quote, the facts and the law wherever they may lead, without prejudice or improper influence. 150 years ago, we created the Department of Justice. It exists today with these mission statements and core values. That's the standard. And by that standard, Todd Blanche fails. During the confirmation hearing, Mr. Blanche was asked whether he and Donald Trump were friends. Remember his response?
I'm his lawyer.
He said, I'm his lawyer. And then he tried to correct himself by saying, was his lawyer. That's a remarkable slip for someone seeking to become Attorney General of the United States. And colleagues, we know he spent hours and hours over the course of days preparing for the hearing. And yet the first words out of his mouth when asked that question was, I'm his lawyer. The Attorney General isn't supposed to be the president's lawyer. The Attorney General is supposed to be the country's lawyer. And if you recall, when I asked Mr. Blanche whether the Department of Justice has an obligation to remain independent from improper political influence, including influence by the president, he refused to say yes. He tried to justify the department's part of the executive branch and he's a member of the cabinet and the president's agenda, the president's fixations and obsessions is what he follows. It suggests he sees no problem with the president directing federal law enforcement to investigate and prosecute his perceived political enemies. It's not hypothetical. We've seen investigations into former FBI Director James Comey, into New York Attorney General Letitia James, into former CIA Director John Brennan, into our colleagues, both on committee, Senator Schiff, and not on this committee, Senator Kelly, and more. At the same time, Mr. Blanche has shown little interest in ensuring that federal officials themselves are held accountable when they violate the law, including but not limited to the Department of Homeland Security. He basically stated that his belief is that the department should investigate and police themselves. Remember, I asked him about this. They're clearly incapable of doing so. Federal agents shooting innocent civilians, killing United States citizens on the streets of our country, detainees dying in record numbers in detention centers that are violating the standards that they're supposed to maintain. So it's clear that under Todd Blanche, the primary job of the Justice Department will be to do things like defend all options to reward January 6 rioters who attacked the United States Capitol and violently assaulted police officers, to ensure immunity for the president and his family for tax crimes. And no, even with this so-called deal, that hasn't changed. Under the supposed deal, Mr. Blanche isn't prevented from creating a new anti-weaponization fund tomorrow by some other name. It does not prevent Mr. Blanche from using taxpayer funds to reward January 6 rioters. It does not prohibit Donald Trump and his sons from receiving immunity for their tax crimes. To me, this doesn't seem like a deal at all. But ultimately, it does nothing to address the real, fundamental root problem. The Department of Justice, with no independence, a department that enables corruption that it should be prosecuting, a department that rewards people who violently stormed the Capitol and assaulted law enforcement. What message does that send to supporters of the president after the next presidential election when we try to certify future results? All this while the administration is ignoring the true plight of working families across the country who feel not just burdened, but buried by the increased costs. What does that say to crime victims across the country, survivors of sex trafficking? What does that say to the families of those who have lost their lives at the hands of federal agents, and agents face no accountability? This is not equal justice under the law. This is not the Department of Justice the way it's supposed to be. This is not an attorney general that the American people deserve. Our country deserves better. Todd Blanche is not fit. And I urge my colleagues to oppose this nomination.
Tell our Republican members that we have two speakers left and to get over here so we can vote after Senator Schiff's done speaking. Senator Welch.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, this is a story about how a young and talented and idealistic man committed to public service, a prosecutor's prosecutor, became a new person in service of a corrupt president. It's a story of ambition and loyalty and political calculation eroding resistance and idealism. Mr. Blanche has used his considerable talents to accommodate the corrupt goals of a corrupt president. And by the way, Mr. Chairman, if we rejected Todd Blanche, that corrupt president would find a new Todd Blanche. But Blanche is also a story about how a once great institution is relinquishing its own power and capitulating to a corrupt president. Is there no line that the U.S. Senate will not allow this president to cross? The Senate confirmed Bondi, Hegseth, Patel, Nome, and is about to confirm Blanche. The president is abusing.
All DEI hires unqualified, unfit, unworthy for their positions, but they are against DEI. Keg Breath and John Kane, who had to have a waiver because he was so unqualified. But everybody is mad at DEI. That everybody's not mad at DEI. Everybody is mad that black people who excel have been excelling. That's why everybody's mad in this country. The white nationalists are speaking out loud. And this thing with Nolan Wells in Mississippi, the only people who have been arrested are people who allegedly made threats to this white judge sitting on the bench, while there is no investigation into what is being done to this black mother of a dead child. Let's be real clear. When your FBI, Cockeyed Patel, sent the FBI to Mississippi, you notice who has been investigated? You notice the time that they have to investigate people who's sending verbal threats through whatever means that they are sending these threats. Someone who lives in Ohio and someone who lives in Sacramento. But you notice there has been no FBI investigation into who is threatening this black family. So this is another reason why you ought to be real skeptical of there being any success coming down from this Nolan Wells case. I don't give a fuck if you got a map and fingerprints taking you right to what happened with Nolan Wells, because we have a white nationalist in our government. And make America great again, that's exactly what they mean. Again, this is 2026. They have taken America back to 1926. And this is where they want it. Let's continue.
Using his authority every day in every way. Shame on him. But the United States Senate is failing to use its power any day, in any way, to protect the American people. Should not the U.S. Senate use its advice and consent authority to demand competence and integrity? Did we do that with Bondi, with Noam, with Hegseth, with Patel, and now Blanche? Should not the U.S. Senate use its taxing authority to stop Trump's tariffs that we basically all oppose and are doing so much damage to small businesses and individuals in Vermont and in all our states? Should not the U.S. Senate use its constitutional power of the purse to stop the invasion by President Trump into the power of the purse? And should not the U.S. Senate use its constitutional authority to declare war, to stop this illegal war in Iran, or at least even debate it?
Sir, MAGA is dumb. Why do you think they blame every situation that they have America in, every increase in food prices and energy prices and gas prices? Why do you think the first thing that come out of their mouth is Biden? Why is when Pete Kegbreath sat up there and lied and said that we have enough munitions to fight this war for 100 years, and then turn around and say, well, we're out of munitions because of what Biden was sending to Ukraine? We have MAGA is stupid. MAGA is how is it Donald Trump's approval ratings are holding at 30%? Because 30% of this population don't care the damage that is done to this nation, and because they think they are doing it to black people. So they will endure the pain and act like it's everyone else's fault except for the administration who is administering the pain and taking and looting the treasury and has ruined the reputation of the United States worldwide. And has the United States sitting like a sitting duck, proving that the U.S. military, all this, we have the greatest military in the world, we have the greatest, and we are sitting over there with our thumbs up our ass and can't figure out how to get out of a war of choice that the head of another country talked your dumb president into fighting. Let's continue.
A war that President Trump is losing. Mr. Chairman, the president is abusing his authority, but we are failing as the U.S. Senate to use our authority.
Let me go back a little bit. Did he say we were losing the war? Was he honest?
in Iran, or at least even debate it first to stop the invasion by President Trump, the executive, into the power of the purse? And should not the U.S. Senate use its constitutional authority to declare war, to stop this illegal war in Iran, or at least even debate it, a war that President Trump is losing? Mr. Chairman, the president is abusing his authority, but we are failing as a U.S. Senate to use our authority. And when we fail to use our authority, we fail to meet our responsibility to the people of this country. We can stop capitulating today by doing our job and rejecting a completely unqualified man to be the top law enforcement official in this country. I will vote no.
Senator Schiff.
Hey, Fred Shields.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I speak in opposition to the nomination of Todd Blanche to be Attorney General.
Hold on 1 minute. When we talk about the ignorance of MAGA, let me pull this comment up. Boss titties, goodbye. Do not come in my chat talking about monkeys. You're the monkey and the baboon and the ape that is leaving my chat. Have a good day. Hit the like button on your way out. Everybody hit the like button if you are enjoying the commentary. If you are here, hit the like button. You may want to subscribe.
He should be rejected for 5 broad reasons. The first is he has used the Department of Justice to enrich the President of the United States, and that is not the job of an Attorney General. Now, how has he done this? Well, let's look at the IRS settlement. And bear in mind, this was a lawsuit brought by Donald Trump, not as a private citizen. He had every opportunity to bring this lawsuit in between his first term and his second term, but he did not do so. In fact, he waited so long that the statute of limitations ran on that potential claim. He waited until he became president. Now, why did he wait to bring this $10 billion lawsuit until he became president? He waited so that he would have the power of the presidency to leverage the IRS and the Justice Department to make him more money. So he waits till he's president. He sues the IRS for $10 billion. In a stunning act of self-dealing, he purports to settle with himself. He's represented by his personal lawyers on the one hand and by his other lawyers at the Department of Justice on the other hand, in a collusive use of the litigation process that was found by a judge in Florida to be a potential fraud on the court, to be brought for an improper purpose of extracting some kind of financial benefit to the president, and boy, was it a benefit. By some estimates in Forbes, $600 million of tax benefit for the president, his family, his sons, the businesses, the affiliates, and all the rest of that. Now, there was an effort, and I appreciate my colleagues from Texas and North Carolina making an effort to try to rein in this tax settlement, but what they attempted to achieve has not been achieved. As my colleague from Texas rightly asked during his questioning of Todd Blanche during the confirmation hearing, this is purportedly an agreement between two parties. Can you, representing just one of them or speaking for just one of them, bind the other? And the answer was no. Blanche acknowledged that no, his statement alone couldn't bind the parties. The president could insist for his part on honoring the terms of the settlement agreement. Does this unsigned one-pager somehow change any of that? And the answer is no. Look at this statement. It says that Todd Blanche incorporates that testimony by reference, meaning the testimony before the Senate, meaning that when he answered my colleague from Texas' question that he could not bind both parties to the settlement, he stands by that testimony. He's telling us again, reaffirming in writing, he does not speak for both parties, and therefore this unsigned statement that only says that it's restating DOJ's interpretation is meaningless. And that interpretation, according to this unsigned document, is that the order only has any effect, including on any release of claims, on the named parties in the lawsuit referenced in the order. But let's look at the named parties in this. The named parties in this settlement agreement, which the Attorney General admitted remains in force, applies to the plaintiffs, meaning Trump, his sons, and Trump organizations, or affiliated individuals, including without limitation family or others filing jointly, or parties including trusts, parents, sister-related companies, affiliates, and subsidiaries by reason of, respect to, in connection with, or which arise out of any matters that were raised or could have been raised.
This is so broad, and nothing in this supposed clarification changes that. So if tomorrow the president wants to insist, let's say that tomorrow the IRS were to audit the returns of a subsidiary of one of the companies, not a party to the actual litigation. Do you think for a moment the president wouldn't assert that settlement agreement as a defense? Do you think for a moment that a court would find that an unsigned statement purporting to restate some testimony in committee would bar the president from using that as a defense? And so we have this litigation, president sues president settles with president never asserts the statute of limitations which would bar the claim. But no, this is used to enrich the president and his family. That is number one. We should not confirm an attorney general who views his job as enriching the president of the United States. Number two, we should not confirm an attorney general who believes that he has a right and a duty, the president has a right and a duty to go after his political enemies. Look, I understand my colleagues upset that their toll records were subpoenaed, but I didn't hear any of you complain when my toll records were subpoenaed during the first Trump administration. But let's set that aside. Do any of you think that's equivalent to the Justice Department under Todd Blanche seeking to indict two of our colleagues for a video they made that stated the plain truth that you can ignore an illegal order that you indeed have a duty to? I mean, how can any of us countenance an attorney general who would do such a thing? Or as my colleague from North Carolina says, brings a Seychelles case. How absurd is that? Can there be any doubt that that was brought simply because he's on the president's enemies list? I know I'm on that list. The president reiterated just the other night that he hates me, which I could tell you wounds me deeply. He's entitled to his own views about me or anybody else. He is not entitled, however, to use the Department of Justice to go after his political opponents. And the day we say that's okay, and the day we confirm an attorney general who says that's okay, is the day that the rule of law becomes merely an unenforceable idea, a quaint acknowledgement of a past Justice Department in which the rule of law once mattered. We should not confirm an attorney general who believes the president has a right and a duty to use him to go after his enemies. Number three of the reasons why we should not confirm Todd Blanche is that his efforts to protect the president and others in the Epstein files investigation is a scandalous abuse of power. He withheld documents implicating the president to protect the president. He has never been able to shed his role as criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump. He withheld records, only complied even partially with the requirement of the law that he disclose them when he was found out in that effort of cover-up and concealment. And what's more, his mismanagement of the release of the files has victimized the victims again by publishing their names, their likenesses, their photos, their addresses. We should not confirm anyone so incompetent, someone so indifferent to the suffering of these victims, someone who only met with them because he was going to be refused confirmation for his refusal to do so. Someone who met with the prime co-conspirator of Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and sought exculpatory statements from her, brought no one of any experience with the case. Who would do that as an experienced prosecutor? Go interview someone in custody in a high-profile case without bringing anyone who worked on that case who could tell them the questions to ask, who could press them when they dissembled and lied, as this witness has a history of doing. And then oversees her transfer to a minimum security prison and gives us the false explanation here in the Senate that he did so to protect her from threats. Such a person should not be confirmed as Attorney General. Number four, he has sought to compensate cop beaters with your money, with taxpayer funds. And I have to say again, nothing in this new signed document of the Attorney General, nothing in this stops the president from doing it. And the president has told us he fully intends to do this. Indeed, they're already paying off the president's cronies. Do you remember Michael Flynn, the erstwhile national security advisor of the president? He's already been paid $1.25 million of your taxpayer money. This is a guy who pled guilty twice to lying to the FBI about his contacts with the Russians. And he's already made $1.25 million off your money, not using this weaponization slush fund, but using the DOJ's victim fund, the judgment fund, as a slush fund. And these cop beaters are already signaling their intention to file claims under the Federal Tort Claims Act. So even if the weaponization fund doesn't move forward, they are using the same mechanism to pay off these cop beaters and cronies of the president. And nothing in what Todd Blanche signed is going to stop that. What will stop that is a statute passed by this committee in the Congress that prevents this, that prevents taxpayer funding from going to these cop beaters. That is the only thing that will prevent it, and we haven't done it. Number 5, this is an attorney general who's violated the code of ethics. Now, that may seem like a small thing given all the other violations, but it ought to matter to us. He violated in this IRS slush fund tax settlement cases that judge in Florida found and suspects and referred him to the Bar Association for his conduct in that collusive settlement. But more than that, during his testimony to this committee, I asked him about comments he made to CPAC, that conservative convention. Remember those comments he made bragging about how there wasn't a single person left standing in the Justice Department or the FBI who had anything to do with the cases against Donald Trump, and how he was applauded at CPAC for that. And I asked him, how is that consistent with the ethics advice that you admitted to this committee you received from the Justice Department, that you have said you followed, that told you you must recuse yourself from involvement in any case in which you defended Donald Trump? How is that consistent? And his answer was, oh, I was just saying those things to CPAC. I wasn't saying I did it. I was just saying all those people got fired. But here's the thing. He did fire people involved in the cases against Donald Trump. In fact, we heard testimony last week of one of the people he fired. And here is his termination notice. This is Todd Blanche's signature on a notice of removal from federal service for Peter Carr. Peter Carr was one of the primary spokespeople for Jack Smith's investigation. He was the spokesperson against the president in the president's prosecution for inciting a violent attack on the Capitol. Todd Blanche writes, this memorandum serves as official notice that you are removed from your position of public affairs specialist with the Department of Justice. Signed by Todd Blanche, recused from any involvement in firing anyone in the cases in which he defended the president, firing someone involved in the cases in which he defended the president. So this is someone who has violated his code of ethics, blatantly, misled this committee in testimony, supported the establishment of a fund for cop beaters, concealed and covered up documents implicating the president in the Epstein files, gone after the president's enemies, and used the DOJ to enrich the president in a collusive settlement. Is this who we're prepared to confirm as Attorney General? It appears so. The fundamental problem with Todd Blanche is not that he's inexperienced, not that he's not capable, not that he's not intelligent. The problem with confirming Todd Blanche is that he has never been able to shed his role as criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump. He just can't do it. He does not represent the American people now. He will never represent the American people. He will never do what's best for the American people. He will only do what's best for Donald Trump. And you cannot leave someone like that as the nation's #1 law enforcement official, not when you have a corrupt president engaged in the most unprecedented, self-enriching schemes we have ever seen. You just can't do it and hope to have anything left of the rule of law. I urge a no vote on this confirmation, and I yield back.
We now turn to the nomination of Todd Blanche to be Attorney General. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Cornyn.
Aye.
Mr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Cruz.
Aye.
Mr. Hawley.
Aye.
Mr. Tillis.
Aye.
Mr. Kennedy.
Aye.
Mrs. Blackburn. Aye. Mr. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mrs. Britt. Aye. Mrs. Moody. Aye. Ms. Graham. Aye. Mr. Durbin.
No.
Mr. Whitehouse.
No by proxy.
Ms. Klobuchar.
No.
Mr. Coons.
No.
Mr. Blumenthal.
No.
Ms. Rono. Mr. Booker.
No.
Mr. Padilla.
No.
Mr. Welch.
No.
Mr. Schiff.
No.
Chairman Grassley.
Aye.
On this vote, the ayes are 12, the nays are 10.
The nomination will be favorably reported. Before we adjourn, I have some letters I want to put in the record from, well, I'm not going to bother to read it. It's not worth reading at this point. The meeting's adjourned.
Okay, so there you have it. Hey, Z Sarah, thank you for the super chat. If you guys have learned something new here on today, please help me reach my goals. Like, share, and subscribe. Now, um, what we need to know is when you look back in a couple of months, you are going to see how justice will not be upheld in the United States of America. Your constitutional rights will be trampled all over by this squad that has the largest budget of any agency in the United States, which is called ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. When you are finally waking up to what is really going on in America, I want you to reference yourself back to this day. I really want you to reference yourself back to this day. But unfortunately, by then, all of this is to try to thwart the midterm elections because this president and his administration and the Republicans at large are so unpopular. This may, in fact, be your last chance to have a free and fair election. Well, it won't be free and it won't be fair, in my opinion, in the United States of America. So while you're sitting back and looking at black people, looking at undocumented immigrants, looking at everybody else, look at your living conditions. Look at when you last got a raise, as they are talking about uh, pumping billions of dollars into these tech billionaires and looking for ways to allow these tech billionaires to have access to your pensions and your 401ks as the old investors are able to get out with their money as they open a channel for your pensions to be robbed in these IPOs of these billionaires that are absolute failures, that they are charging you all of this money to get information. And if you don't have enough money, that depends on how much information you will be getting. See, this is what's being propped up in the United States of America. As American citizens are losing their health care, as farmers are going broke, as cattle ranchers and other meat ranchers are going broke, and these people sit up and tell you all of the things you're doing. We heard Brooke Rollins, every question that was asked of her about how the Department of Agriculture is failing. We're working on that, and we're working on that, and we just started a meeting. She has always just started something, but nothing has ever happened to relieve the American citizens why they're sending billions of dollars over to Argentina. But you guys don't never notice that because you're so racist. Some of you, not all of you, of course. They want to tickle your racist bone and make you think that you're the victim of black people. And you don't even understand. While your president sat up and talked about black countries being shithole countries, have you looked across the United States of America lately? Have you looked at the infrastructure? Have you looked at the architecture of these major cities in the United States of America? Have you compared and contrasted them to places like China? China, which used to have the largest population of poor people, and over the past 40 years, what did they do? They invested in their people and got their people out of poverty. Have you paid any attention to that? Have you paid any attention to how many countries have been abused by your president on these tariffs and these tariffs that he makes 30% one day, and I don't like them, and they said this and they said that. Have you realized how your president has made the United States of America a pariah, and the will of the people is being subverted as your sitting Congress people and your sitting senators sit back and do nothing about it? This is what's happening right now. So now we are at the juncture of time where they are about to figure out a way. Well, they have already figured out. If you happen to want to protest something that is going on in your government, they have decided a way to document you as Antifa, a non-existent entity, a member of an Antifa. Antifa, the actual meaning of Antifa is anti-fascism. That is not a group that has membership, but your president wants you to believe that Antifa is an actual group, like the Proud Boys. Those Proud Boys that he gave parties to. Antifa is an idea of anti-fascism. That is not a group. Your president told you that people, I believe he said that Antifa was involved in ruining the reflecting pool, only to find out that the one person that they charged, a man in his 70s who was facing up to 5 or 10 years in prison, they had to drop the charges. Your president told you that he was all of these things, and they had absolutely no proof because everybody already knew that the unqualified DEI mob boss figure looking guy uh, did subpar work. And did your president say he was going to ask for a refund? No, your tax dollars was blown up the butthole of this thick mustache, gulag looking guy. So we're at the juncture in the United States where they are going to try to shut down any dissent, including the dissent in the voting booth. If you don't believe that this is a serious time, I want you to look at the people who are about to approve Todd Blanche as the head of the DOJ. I really want you to look. You see, because Trump can't do this alone. Trump needs senators and congressmen who are complicit in this. As you saw Tillis and Cornyn try to come out and try to absolve themselves and try to say that they got some agreement from Todd Blanche, who sees himself as your Donald Trump's personal attorney. I really want you to pay attention of the downfall of the United States, since you can't see it in the life that you live around you. Since you ignore it because you're so busy looking at black people in the life that you live around you. I want you to see this is the demise of the United States. Let's go. Let me see if I can get it a little further. Are we voting yet? They still out chitter chatting. Okay, we've caught up. It's going to take a little time, I guess. We are. Thank you again, Z Sarah. I appreciate you hitting my goals. If you learned something new here today, please help me reach my goals. But this is why I come live. Correct. If you're watching on your telephone, please tap the screen twice to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm here Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, unless something of importance is happening on Tuesday and Thursday. I will pop in. This is very important what we're about to see go down in your government. And when you're sitting back wondering how did this all happen, when you're sitting back months from now thinking, how did America come to ruin? Do you know our strategic oil reserves are at an all-time low to the point where they are going to about to start breaking down because they cannot pump any more oil as your president is trying to price fix the oil prices in America, so millionaires and billionaires can get richer with all of these fake announcements about he's having talked with the Iranians, and that's why he didn't do strikes. And then on the weekend he was gonna blow them to oblivion and all of this stuff, and then come back and tell you, oh well, we're in talks with Iran, and you know the reason why we didn't strike them because they said that they not they they have we agree, they said that they agreed to the parameter of a deal. And what did Iran quickly come out and say? Iran said we are not in talks with the United States at all. So who do you believe? Who do you believe? The man who is trying to ride this wave out of playing dummies and enriching themselves? Who do you believe? Who's getting richer in this administration? Your president has given the offer that if you want to preview his tweets with the understanding that he has been busted about promoting different businesses and then these businesses suddenly increasing their profits in the stock market. But your president said, you know, y'all peep that. Y'all peep that. They call that insider trading. Well, I'll do you one better. Your president has offered for $100,000 a month. You will be able to access his tweets prior to them being tweeted out to the public. You know, you will get a membership tweet if you pay him $100,000 a month, and therefore, whatever company corporation that he's tweeting about, you can go ahead and you can get that information first, and you can do with it as you wish. You can buy and sell stocks based upon what your president of the United States is saying about a company. But you want to look at black people. You want to look at black people. Let's continue. I don't know how long this is going to take, but we will be here for the duration. We have some more breaking news. The OnlyFans model who took the life of her African boyfriend. She has taken a plea deal for second degree murder. If you guys remember that story, she had already been arrested in Las Vegas for domestic violence against him. Big, strong football player looking African immigrant to this country. And the thing that is weird about this same big black football status African was one of these black Africans that came to the United States of America and walked into the United States of America and everything that the United States of America had to offer based upon the sweat, the tears, the blood, and the death of the black American ancestors. And he started to deride African American Americans. He started to say what black women are and are not, and how black women are this, that, and the other. So he decided that he was going to get him a Becky. He was going to do better than these black women of the United States. But then Becky took his life. Becky was beating on him furiously, all over in public, everywhere she could go. This is what Becky was doing to him as he's talking about how black women in the United States weren't shit. Well, obviously, obviously these African women weren't shitty. You're trying to put it on black women. The fact that your self-esteem was so low that you thought that it took a white woman to be on your arms that you were doing something and you didn't care. Isn't it strange how they don't care about the behavior of these wild white women? That behavior is okay. Can you imagine the same person having a black woman lose her mind, yelling and screaming in public and hitting and slapping him and calling him the N word in public? But he wanted to talk about how bad the black woman was. So she has pled guilty to second-degree murder. Living in a room full of trash, a bitch who don't even know how to clean her own house. The house and the hotel rooms that they stayed in were totally thrashed, like somebody had some type of drug feud party every room that they went where he was staying with his prized possession. Yeah, she has the she has pled guilty to second degree. I don't know what the penalty for her is as of yet, but that's what's going on there. If you are unaware about that, just thought I'd give you that little tidbit. Let's see what else. Let me see what other news that I would like to share with you today while we're waiting on these people to ruin America. Don Lemon is disappointing. Vivek Rashami was booed off the stage in Ohio. See, he thought that if he would talk all this white nationalist talk, Rashami, he doesn't understand that they don't like you either. I don't care. I don't care how much three times lighter than your skin shade makeup you put on when you go to these Turning Point USA conferences and all of these conservative conferences. They don't like you either. So in his own state of Ohio, where he is running for governor, he was booed off the stage. Let me see. APEC is set for a huge wipeout in the Senate race in Michigan. Now, we have a Muslim running for a mayor in Dr. Sahid. Please forgive me. I forget his name. He's a Muslim. And they have this pasty sitting up here, a big fat pasty sitting up here talking about all the APEC money she has taken in and how she cries about Israel and Israel comes to her in her dream. She has gotten over $40 million, it is reported, from APEC and APEC interests. But now they are coming out with all of this Muslim talk. The same thing that they're doing with Zoran Mandami. But Zoran Mandami has a broken ground on low rate housing. Today, he has broken ground on his promise to bring affordable housing to New York City. He is fulfilling his commitment to the American people. While you have these people on the Republican Party calling him a terrorist, saying that they wouldn't vote for these people because of their terrorist ties, but ignoring the fact that your president has given a pardon to someone who is accused of laundering money between Al Qaeda terrorists. But they don't want to say anything about that. But what they do want to talk about is their hate for Muslim people, and they don't even know why they hate these people. These people who are doing the work to support the American constituents that have voted them into office. You have these Republicans going on TV talking about Zoran Mandani should be deported back to Uganda where he was born. But what did Como, what did this other Mayor Adams, what did he do for the New York constituents? I know Mayor Adams totally fucked up the teachers' pension in New York City. I know that's what he did. What did he do for now? Zoran Mandani has opened up a grocery store where they are paying 30% less on certain days for certain products. Affordable grocery store. What has Donald Trump done to you when he told you that he was going to bring the prices down for the American citizens? Huh? I'm very curious. Has Donald Trump done any of those things that he told you that he was going to do for you? No, he hasn't. I'm not curious. I already know. Let me see. Let me see what other news do I want to talk about? Oh, let's see. Let's see what Todd Blanche was working on recently while we wait for his vote. Let's see what the DOJ bought you. I keep my page open so I can see this. But let's see what Todd Blanche found it necessary to prosecute in this Trump DOJ just recently here. Let's see some of his handiwork. Uh-oh. Hold on.
Of the majority and minority leaders.
Here's another buffoon. Here's another buffoon, a Cassidy of Mississippi, who was primaried out of his position.
I ask that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent for the following interns in my office to be granted floor privileges until August the 5th, 2026. Lawson Patterson and Ella Chapman.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I have 5 requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
And I also ask unanimous consent to enter into a colloquy with Senator Durbin for up to 30 minutes.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I just told my colleague from Illinois, it's been a riot. We have been trying to set up a process whereby Congress would consider a solution, not prescribe a solution, consider a solution for Social Security. A process that would have members of the House and members of the Senate come together fully open for input from stakeholders, from citizens, to have something to present among all the proposals that are out there. 2 proposals, 3 proposals, and whatever we put up would not be the final solution necessarily. It could be replaced by any other member of the Senate with an amendment in the nature of a substitute. And Mr. President, people won't even set up a process. We're not talking about a solution. We're talking about a process that would come to a solution maybe that still has to get 60 votes in the United States Senate. Folks say we need more time. Dick Durbin just chuckled. He goes, they've had 44 years. They've had 44 years. How much more time do they need? I've got a couple of cartoons just to make the case. I think that if we don't set up this process, Congress will be kicking Granny off the cliff. That was made famous long ago. There it is. She earned it. She deserves it. She counts on it. And Congress will not set up a process by which to address the issue. 75 million retirees, widows, widowers, others relying on social. In 6 years, the program, the trust fund goes insolvent. And when that happens, according to the actuaries, there'll be either a almost 29% benefit reduction or a 40% increase in payroll taxes on working Americans. If that trust fund goes insolvent and that benefit is cut 28.5%, as the actuaries say it will, the rate of poverty among Americans over age 65 will increase by 50%. By 50%. So here's another cartoon. Congress made a promise, and some people want to ignore it. She paid in, she earned it, she relies on it. But if you ask, should we do something about social? Apparently for some people, the time to do something on social is never. Don't disturb Congress. They don't want to take a tough vote, even if that vote only sets up a process. Doesn't even propose a solution. A process whereby Congress is required to fix the issue. By the way, social has always been important. It's even more important now that Americans are living longer. And every year we delay to fix it. We delay fixing it, fixing social. The amount of cuts required to balance it increase. The amount of taxes required to fix it increase, or the amount of money we have to borrow to fix it increases. There is no good thing about waiting, except that it allows Congress to dodge its responsibility. I want to compliment my colleague from Illinois. He came up to me and goes, Bill, I'm leaving the Senate. We need to make a run at fixing social. I'm leaving the Senate. We need to make a run. But, by the way, we have a solution, but we're not saying it has to be our solution. All we're trying to do is set up a process by which solutions can be considered. And running out the clock, if it's politically convenient, may be politically convenient, but it is a wrong thing to do. Congress's obligation to the American people, to the people that rely upon Social Security, is to act, and is to act now. I have another cartoon here just to make the point. It's not just older people affected, it is younger people. Sorry, young folks, you're getting left behind because some say it's not our problem. The Social Security system going insolvent, and these folks can pay into it, they'll never receive a benefit. These young pages here, they don't recognize it yet, but they're contributing every month on the wages they're getting to a system that will not be there for them unless we do something now. So I'll just, before I defer to my colleague, I'll just say once more, all we're doing is setting up a process to propose solutions that may or may not pass, that any senator can bring their own bill and have it as an amendment in the nature of a substitute. And it's up to Congress, though, to find a solution. Now, history will decide whether Congress took up the responsibility of addressing the issue, or whether because it was politically advantageous, politically expedient to kick the can down the road once more, even though the road's about to end in a dead end, or in the case of one of our cartoons with the cliff, here, they built a bridge and decided not to finish it. Here, the folks who need to get across the bridge of Social Security will get to it someday. We got to get to it now. That's the point, Mr. President. Let's set up a process to be considered. We're talking about the Promise Act, which is a Dick Durbin lead author, Bill Cassidy bill. And there may be another way, but let's set up the process. With that, I defer to my colleague.
Mr. President.
Senator from Illinois is recognized.
what a treat it is to be on the floor of the Senate with a colleague on the Republican side of the aisle, working together to try to solve a problem. It doesn't happen much around here. You see these empty desks? They're empty almost all the days, week in, week out, month in, month out. We do important things like nominations. There's nothing that's trivial about that. But we don't tackle the issues that really affect people at home with their families. Here's one, Social Security. 75 million Americans rely on it. Half of them, it's their only source of income. So a Social Security check means a lot. So the experts on Social Security tell Dr. Cassidy and myself that just in a few years, 6 years, Social Security will be unable to make full promise payments. It'll be cut by 22% in terms of benefits. Let's take an example. The average Social Security check now is around $2,400 a month. If you reduce that by 22%, it means that people receiving Social Security will receive about $450 to $500 less a month. If this is your only source of income, imagine for a moment that $2,400 just lopped off $400, $500 from the monthly payment. How does it affect you? Paying your rent, paying your mortgage, paying your utility bills, paying what it might take at the grocery store to get by. It's going to be a real hardship. As Senator Cassidy said, for the senior citizens of America, it means that those under the poverty level will increase by 50%. We can't let that happen. We have to do something about it. And the bill that I've introduced with Senator Cassidy basically doesn't pick a solution, although we can come up with a couple. It doesn't pick a solution. It just says, don't waste any time. Start talking about it. Start debating it. Let the American people engage in this conversation with you and vote on some alternatives. Now, vote is a word that used to be part of being a senator. Not so much anymore, except when it comes to nominations, there aren't a lot of votes on substantive issues around this chamber. I know a little bit about this. I've given more than half of my life to Congress, 14 years in the House, 30 years in the Senate. I know what you're saying. It sounds like a career politician. Well, maybe I am, and proud of it, and particularly proud of serving in this chamber. I've seen some glorious things happen in this chamber on a bipartisan basis, but it takes a couple of years, maybe more, to stand up. We've got to do something that's risky and controversial, but important. This is not the first time I faced Social Security. When I was a member of the House, elected in '82, came to serve in '83, I was told that in a matter of months, Social Security would run out of money. Imagine that. You're a brand new member of Congress, scared to death you won't be reelected, and they tell you you've got to make a big change in the biggest social program in America. Scares you to death. But you know what? We did it. Our goal was simple. 50 years of solvency in Social Security. Can we change Social Security and guarantee 50 years of solvency? We made a lot of changes. And what we got for it? 2032. 1983, 2032, we kept our word, 50 years. It's not too much to ask this Congress to fix Social Security and keep it solvent for 50 years. We can do it. The longer we wait to do it, the more difficult it becomes. I look back on voting for that and I thought it was the end of my political career, which was only a few months old. But it turned out no member of Congress, Democrat or Republican, in 1983 and 84 lost an election because they voted for Social Security changes. The American people expect us to make the best choices we can, and they accepted what we did, and we bought 50 years of solvency. That's an amazing thing when you consider how important this program is. And so what Senator Cassidy and I have suggested is a process which basically says we won't go by the old Senate rules. I might add, I was going to show it, but I think it violates the Senate rules. The Senate is a chamber of tradition. Down here, a few of you can see it, is a brass spittoon. Brass spittoon. It's been held on to as part of the tradition of the Senate. Well, we have traditions in the rules that make things almost impossible to pass, except for after a long period of time. Weeks go by sometimes. Days certainly go by. trying to get to a measure on the floor to an actual vote. The Senate rules are not kindly, they're tough. So the bill that I introduced basically cuts through some of this red tape and delay and says we'll move after several weeks to consider alternatives to Social Security. The bottom line is it isn't enough to get a majority in the Senate under the current rules, and it isn't changed at all under our proposal. You still need 60 votes to ultimately pass any change in Social Security. Well, Democrats don't have 60 votes, Republicans don't have 60 votes, but together we think we can reach that goal. Now, I've been a little disappointed but not surprised that some of my colleagues that I've talked to about this said they thought it was a good idea, but on reflection they've decided it's too risky, that we're moving things too fast. The Senate's never been accused successfully of moving too fast on almost anything. We take our time. That's why we're here. The Senate is different than the House, and I served in both and respect both. So to my colleagues who oppose this approach, who say we need more time to do it, I want to back up Senator Cassidy. It costs money over time. It costs benefits over time. The solution becomes more expensive over time. The longer you wait, the more expensive it becomes to save Social Security, and we absolutely positively have to save it. Too many people are counting on it. I'll bet you the folks who gathered here today have many relatives of their own who count on Social Security, either because they're disabled or elderly. I understand that in my own family. I think everybody does. So it is a great day in the Senate when a Democrat and a Republican stand on the floor and don't criticize one another, but actually talk about working together. It's been a real pleasure for me, I'd say to Senator Cassidy, to be part of the Cassidy-Durbin team. We're both ending our Senate careers on January 3rd of next year. We hoped that this would be one of the things we could achieve before we left. I'm still not giving up completely. Miracles do occur, but I had to step up and make a proposal with Senator Cassidy to get my colleagues in conversation. The conversation about Social Security has increased dramatically since we started this effort, and I think it should. The sooner, the better. The more expensive it becomes, the longer we wait. And I yield back to Senator Cassidy.
Senator Durbin, and Senator Durbin's referring to what is called the Promise Act. Again, it is a bill which sets up a process to come to a solution. It doesn't dictate what the solution is. We have colleagues who are objecting to coming up with a process. And so it is important for our country that Congress tackle this issue. And when I say our country, I mean the people who live here. And the people who live here, whether they are older or whether they are younger, they're relying upon Congress to step up to its responsibility. Thank you, Senator Durbin. We'll continue to push on this. It is important for our Congress, important for our country, important for our people. With that, I yield.
I yield, Mr. President.
Listen, I do not know where the vote on Comey has gone. This appears to be the same hearing. They took a break, and there is no account. This is the same hearing we were in. I'm going to leave this on and open just in case they come back with the vote on Comey. Yeah. Not Comey, the vote on Todd Blanche. I don't know exactly what happened. The Senate stands in recess until 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, I guess I won't. So, so far we have no vote on Comey. Let's see what's going on over here. I keep saying Comey, on Todd Blanche. Executive branch meeting to consider pending nomination. Coverage begins at 9 a.m. Let me see where we left off on this one. Let me share this page with you. I had to go to another page because that was odd the way that ended. Are we there together? I think we're there together. Let's see what's going on here, because I want to see what the heck happened with this vote. The mics are off.
Before we adjourn, I have some letters I want to put in the record.
General? It appears so. The fundamental problem with Todd Blanche is not that he's inexperienced, not that he's not capable, not that he's not intelligent. The problem with confirming Todd Blanche is that he has never been able to shed his role as criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump. He just can't do it. He does not represent the American people now. He will never represent the American people. He will never do what's best for the American people. He will only do what's best for Donald Trump. And you cannot leave someone like that as the nation's #1 law enforcement official, not when you have a corrupt president engaged in the most unprecedented, self-enriching schemes we have ever seen. You just can't do it and hope to have anything left of the rule of law. I urge a no vote on this confirmation, and I yield back.
We now turn to the nomination of Todd Blanche to be Attorney General. The clerk will call the roll.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Cruz. Aye. Mr. Hawley. Aye. Mr. Tillett. Aye. Mr. Kennedy. Aye. Mrs. Blackburn. Aye. Mr. Schmidt. Aye. Mrs. Britt. Aye. Mrs. Moody. Aye. Mrs. Graham. Aye. Mr. Durbin.
No.
Mr. Whitehouse.
No by proxy.
Ms. Cosar.
No.
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 Aye.
Ayes are 12s, the noes are 10. I don't know how I missed that the last time. So he will be furthered for the DOJ vote. He would be further for the whole Senate to vote on his
Nomination
nomination.
will be favorably reported. Before we adjourn, I have some letters I want to put in the record from
I don't know how I missed that before. Both of these links are in my description box. It's a sad day in the United States of America. I hope you guys enjoyed the program. Please hit the like button. Tap your the screen on your television on your phone to hit the like button, or just hit the like button. Prepare yourself for what's to come in the United States. Make sure you get you some solar power. Make sure you stockpile you some food. Make sure you get you some containers that will safely store water. The average person needs about 6 gallons of water per day. I'm not talking about the clear plastic containers. Make sure you get some containers that is food grade, food safe, to store you some water. So also make sure you get you some personal protection. Make sure you get the things, any things that you need to insert in your personal protection, because in time of peril, there are shortages, and there are rations of these things that you need to put in your personal protection, and you may be able to only buy 1 box of those things that you put in your personal protection per day. They did that during COVID. So make sure you prepare yourself, because everyone else, people with money, are prepared for it. They planned on it. They want this to happen. So make sure you prepare yourself to be safe. Get you a solar power generator, because God knows we have no more oil left. So I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. I'll save the rest of my stories for tomorrow morning. I appreciate you being here. I hope you guys have a fabulous remainder of your day. Yeah, I missed that on the last thing. I was looking for another video. I must have missed that vote. Yes, it's obviously that they confirmed him. So we have all the names of the Republican senators that thought that, hey, this is a good idea. So if you are in their districts, you may want to make it known that you don't feel that was a good idea. If you are ever able to vote and make it known again in the United States. You may want to take a note of these people who thought that it is a good thing to have Todd Blanche as our top cop in the United States. So have a good day, remainder of your day. I'm out of here. Bye bye. I'm disgusted. I'm just disgusted.